Across the sands of time, humanity has built wonders and buried secrets. From the shadow depths of forgotten temples to the silent stones that defy explanation, traces of civilizations whisper stories we still cannot fully understand. How did ancient engineers carve monuments with precision rivaling modern tools? Why do artifacts appear centuries before the technology to create them should have existed? And what truths lie beneath ruins that history itself seems desperate to conceal? Each discovery brings us closer to the past, yet somehow farther from the truth. Because for every question answered, another emerges, wrapped in dust and silence. These are not myths or legends, but real mysteries etched into the earth, waiting for us to listen. So sit back, open your mind, and step into the unknown. This is a journey through the unsolved archaeological mysteries you should know. Rising from the soft rolling plains of western Hungary, Somlo Hill stands alone, a dark volcanic mound against the wide horizon. Its slopes, now draped in vineyards and the scent of ripening grapes, conceal a far older story. Beneath the surface of this quiet landscape lies evidence of a past that refuses to give up its secrets. Caches of ancient metal deliberately buried thousands of years ago, known to archaeologists as the metal hoards of Sill Hill. The first discoveries came quietly, as such things often do. In the late 19th century, local farmers working the fertile soil turned up strange objects. Bronze blades dulled by centuries underground, twisted fragments of jewellery, pieces of weapons and tools. Some were found singly, others clustered together as though placed with intention. As word spread, more finds followed, each one deepening the mystery. By the early 20th century, Slough had earned a curious reputation, a hill where metal sleeps. To the trained eye, the artifact spoke of the late Bronze Age, roughly the 12th or 11th century BCE, when the Carpathian Basin was home to a flourishing metalwork culture. The craftsmanship was unmistakable. These were not crude tools of survival, but works of precision and beauty. Spiral ornaments, socketed axes, swords balanced perfectly for both function and form. They reflected a people who understood bronze intimately, its strength, its limits, its luster when polished by hand. But the real question was never what they made, it was why they buried it. In hoard after hoard, the pattern repeated, objects deliberately broken, bent or rendered unusable before being placed into the earth. Some caches contained dozens of pieces, others hundreds. The deposits were not random, they were careful, often in places overlooking ancient pathways or near water sources. Archaeologists could map them like constellations, clusters of meaning scattered across a prehistoric sky. One explanation, perhaps the most widely accepted, is economic. In a world without banks or coinage, metal itself was currency. A hoard, by that logic, was a form of storage, a wealth deposit buried for safekeeping during uncertain times. Yet in Samlo, many hoards were never retrieved. No one came back for them. If these were savings, why abandon them? Another theory turns toward ritual. Across Europe, the Bronze Age saw the rise of what some scholars call a metal cult. Weapons and ornaments were deliberately destroyed and offered to the earth, water or sky. Acts of devotion, sacrifice, or appeasement. In this view, the hoards of Samlo are not lost wealth but sacred gifts, offerings to deities long forgotten, placed with reverence beneath the volcanic soil. Still others suggest the truth lies somewhere between the practical and the spiritual. Perhaps a smith facing war or famine buried his work to protect both his material and his honour. Or a community fearing invasion concealed its treasures beneath the hill in hope of peace that never came. The Bronze Age was a time of change, tribes moving, alliances shifting, trade routes collapsing. Some low, isolated yet watchful might have served as both refuge and reliquary. Then there are the outliers, the theories that step beyond the academic frame. Some local legends whisper of metal that sings, recalling the strange acoustics of the hill's volcanic rock. Others speak of a fire from the sky that drew ancient people to the summit, linking Samlo's geology to celestial worship, or even contact with forces beyond human comprehension. A few fringe interpretations point to the uniformity of the objects, suggesting an organised network, an early metallurgical cult, or a proto-industrial society bound by secret rites of forging and burial. It's tempting to dismiss such notions as romantic exaggeration. Yet, when one stands at the top slope at dusk, the imagination stirs. The wind moves across the vineyards with a sound like whispers through metal. The soil beneath one's feet, black, mineral-rich, heavy with volcanic memory, seems capable of holding stories deeper than the historical record. Archaeological excavations in the 20th century brought more clarity, but also more complexity. Radiocarbon dating confirmed the hoard's Bronze Age origins. Metallurgical studies revealed that the alloy compositions were remarkably consistent, suggesting a shared technological standard among communities across the region. But even with this data, the question of intent remained unanswered. Each discovery, it seemed, raised another layer of uncertainty. In the 1970s, one particular find reignited debate. A large cache containing not only weapons and tools, but also fragments of casting moulds. This hinted at local production rather than trade, so it might not merely have been a site of burial, but a centre of creation, a place where bronze was born from fire shaped by human hands and then, for reasons unknown, returned to the earth. Was it an act of reverence for the materials themselves? A ritual closing of a metallurgical cycle? The people who lived here understood transformation, or to metal, raw to refined, living to dead. The hill with its volcanic heart may have embodied that eternal rhythm, and yet practical explanations persist. Some archaeologists argue that the hoards were emergency caches hidden during times of conflict. Others believe they represent surplus metal set aside for recycling, objects destined to be melted down once stability returns. But that stability, it seems, never came. Today, the slow hoards rest in museum cases, polished under sterile light. Labels identify them by type and period, their once buried stories condensed to catalogue numbers. But the earth remembers differently. Beneath the hill, more may still lie undiscovered. Silent repositories of a vanished world. Standing there, one can't help but wonder what compelled those ancient hands to bury such wealth, fear, faith, or some instinct we no longer understand. Something that tied humanity to the ground it walked upon. Perhaps the hill itself holds the answer deep within its volcanic core. Until it speaks, the question remains suspended between history and myth, waiting like the metal it once concealed to be unearthed again. And so, from the silent slopes of Hungary's slow hill, where ancient metals sleep beneath volcanic soil, we journey east across the plains over the Caucasus Mountains to another enigma carved not from bronze, but from stone. Hidden within the rugged cliffs of western Azerbaijan lies a structure that defies both time and logic. Locals call it Paragala, the castle of the fairies. At first sight, Paragala appears like something conjured from myth. Set high upon a vertical limestone cliff in the foothills near Cs, its pale walls shimmer in the changing light, half concealed by the folds of the mountain. The approach is treacherous, accessible only by a narrow path that winds upward before vanishing into sheer rock. For centuries, few have dared to climb it. From a distance, it seems almost unreal, like an illusion, a fortress floating between earth and sky. What exactly is Paragala? The structure itself is small, compact, yet inexplicably sophisticated. Carved directly into the face of the cliff, it rises several stories high. Its masonry, red brick bound with lime mortar, has weathered the centuries remarkably well. A steep staircase, now eroded and perilous, once led to a small terrace and a series of chambers cut into the rock. Inside there are niches, ledges, and what appear to be narrow windows opening toward the valley below. No inscriptions mark its walls, no records mention its builders, and that silence is where the mystery begins. Archaeologists have struggled to date the site with certainty. Some estimate its construction between the 5th and 8th centuries CE, placing it in the early Christian era, a time when the Caucasus was a crossroads of empires and faiths. Others suggest it could be much older, perhaps even pre-Christian, an echo of civilizations that left few traces beyond legend. The most common interpretation paints Paragala as a hermitage, a monastic refuge built by early Christian ascetics seeking solitude in the mountains. Throughout the region, caves and cliff dwellings served as places of retreat where monks withdrew from worldly life to pray, fast, and write. The inaccessibility of the castle would have been a virtue, not an obstacle, an architectural embodiment of devotion and isolation. And yet, even this explanation leaves questions unanswered. Why go to such extremes? The cliff face is almost vertical. Constructing a brick structure against it would have been a dangerous monumental task. The effort seems disproportionate for a simple hermitage. Moreover, unlike most monastic cells, Paragala contains no crosses, no carvings, and no inscriptions of faith. Its silence is complete. There are other theories. Some local traditions describe it as a defensive outpost, a watchtower or small fortress used during times of invasion. From its elevated position, one could survey the entire valley below, spotting movement from miles away. But its size and fragility argue against this. It could never have housed soldiers or stores of weapons. The castle is more symbolic than strategic. Then there is the legend, the one that gives Paragala its name. In Azerbaijani folklore, the cliffs of Cox are said to have been home to Pari, ethereal beings of beauty and light. When a nobleman demanded to marry one of these fairies, a mortal woman of extraordinary grace in some versions, a tragic story unfolded. Rather than surrender to a fate she did not choose, the young woman leapt from the cliffs, her spirit transforming into mist. The structure carved into the rock, locals say, marks her final refuge, a place built by or for her, a sanctuary between the human and the divine. It's an alluring tale and one that resonates deeply with those who visit. To stand beneath the cliff and look upward is to feel a quiet awe. The sight seems touched by something both human and otherworldly, like a message left for us to decipher, half in stone, half in air. Modern researchers have approached the site with new tools, drones, imaging technology and 3D mapping. Yet, even with these advances, Paragala offers few clues. There are no clear paths leading to it from the base, no sign of habitation around it. The bricks themselves, though weathered, are not native to the surrounding geology, suggesting they were carried up somehow piece by piece. Who had the knowledge, the resources, and the faith to build such a structure in such an impossible place? Some fringe theories, as always, go further. A few writers have speculated that Paragala predates organised religion, that it could be a remnant of an older lost culture, one that venerated mountain spirits or celestial beings. Others, noticing its alignment with certain peaks and the trajectory of the rising sun, propose astronomical or ritual purposes. There are even whispers, unsubstantiated but persistent, of tunnels or chambers hidden behind the visible facade sealed by rock slides long ago. And then there are those who connect Paragala to the broader web of Eurasian mysteries, sites like Cappadocia's underground cities, Georgia's Vardzia monastery, or Armenia's rock-cut sanctuaries. Could it be part of a network of sacred mountain retreats linked by trade, migration, or shared cosmology? The patterns are there, but the evidence is faint. Traces of meaning scattered like echoes across the landscape. Perhaps the most compelling mystery is not what Paragala was, but why it endures in the imagination. There is something profoundly human about the impulse to carve sanctuaries into the unreachable. From Tibet's cliffside monasteries to the caves of Meteora, we see the same theme repeated: isolation as transcendence, stone as witness. Paragala may belong to that lineage, a testament to the ancient belief that the closer one gets to the sky, the closer one comes to truth. And yet the name lingers: the Fairy Castle. Even in an age of archaeology and satellites, that title persists. It suggests that somewhere beneath the layers of explanation, the people of Cox still sense something magical in the stone. Perhaps the mystery of Paragala lies not in what it once was, but in what it makes us feel. A pull toward the unreachable, a longing for the unseen. At sunset, the cliffs glow gold, and the small red fortress seems to breathe with the light. Then, as shadows gather, it fades back into the mountain, indistinguishable from the rock that cradles it. The air still grows. The valley below darkens. No sound comes from the castle. No light shines from its windows. And yet, for those who stand and watch, it's hard to escape the feeling that something, someone still lingers there, keeping silent vigil. What purpose drove its builders? What secrets does the stone conceal? And if the legends are true, do the fairies of Paragala still watch from their high hidden home, waiting for the world to remember their story? From the remote cliffs of Azerbaijan, where the so-called fairy castle clings to the mountain face, our journey turns west back across Europe to the quiet market town of Royston in Hertfordshire, England. Here, beneath a modest intersection where two ancient roads meet, lies a hidden chamber, one that remained unknown for centuries until chance uncovered it. It is small, silent, and entirely carved by human hands. They call it Royston Cave. At first glance, the cave seems unremarkable. A roughly circular chamber about 20 swestefs deep, and nearly the same in diameter, hollowed out from the chalk beneath the town. But as your eyes adjust to the dim light, the walls begin to speak. They are covered in carvings, dense, intricate, and hauntingly detailed. Figures of saints and knights, crosses and symbols all cut into the living rock. Their faces are worn, their lines softened by time, yet the presence they hold is unmistakable. This place feels deliberate, purposeful. But what was that? What was? Purpose? The cave was discovered in 1742 purely by accident. A workman digging a post hole near the crossroads where the old Roman roadman street meets the prehistoric Ick Neal, where he struck something hollow. When the townspeople widened the opening, they found a shaft descending into darkness with torches lowered, revealing the chamber, a man-made cave filled with centuries of debris, coins, pottery fragments, and dust. When the dirt was cleared, the carvings emerged, silent witnesses to an unknown story. From the beginning, the mystery drew fascination. Who made this? When? And why beneath this particular spot? The earliest theory points to medieval hermits. During the Middle Ages, it was not uncommon for holy men to withdraw from society, living in solitude to pray and reflect. Some built or found small underground chapels where they could exist in spiritual seclusion. The carvings of saints, St. Catherine, St. Lawrence, and perhaps St. Christopher support this interpretation. The cave could have been a hermit's cell, a private sanctuary beneath the crossroads of the known world. Yet even that explanation falters. Hermit cells, where they are found elsewhere, tend to be simple. A cross, a niche for a candle, perhaps a single carving of devotion. Royston Cave, by contrast, is elaborate, covered almost entirely in iconography. Its layout suggests ceremony, not solitude, and its carvings, while Christian in appearance, carry curious inconsistencies. There are figures that seem almost pagan, a woman holding what appears to be a serpent, another wearing a crown of stars. Some symbols are unfamiliar entirely, geometric patterns, sunbursts, and looping designs that don't clearly belong to any known medieval style. Others point towards something more deliberate and more secretive. Among the carvings are several figures interpreted as knights, men in armour holding swords, some bearing the cross of the Knights Templar. Could this cave have been a Templar chapel? The idea took hold in the 19th century and has never fully disappeared. The Templars, a military monastic order founded during the Crusades, were known for their secret rites and underground chapels. When the order was dissolved in the early 14th century, its members were persecuted, imprisoned, and executed. Many legends claim they went underground, both literally and figuratively. Royston Cave, hidden beneath a busy crossroads, seemed the perfect hiding place. The imagery fit, saints venerated by the Templars, symbolic motifs, and the central placement of a carved figure some believe to be St. George or even Christ himself. But hard evidence is lacking. No Templar documents mention the site. No relics directly link the cave to the order. The timeline too is uncertain. Some carvings appear later than the Templar period, suggesting continued use or recarving over generations. If it was ever a Templar chapel, it may have changed hands many times, its meaning reshaped by those who followed. Other explanations surface, each adding another layer to the enigma. Some historians propose it was used by the Augustinian monks from the nearby primary, a private crypt or storeroom later converted into a place of worship. Others point to Freemasons who in later centuries were fascinated by the Templars and might have used or modified the cave for their own symbolic rituals. There is even the suggestion of something older still. Could the chamber predate Christianity altogether? The alignment of Royston's crossroads is ancient, where prehistoric tracks converged long before the Romans came. If one were to dig beneath such a junction in earlier times, perhaps what they sought was not secrecy, but sanctity. Underground spaces were sacred to many early cultures, portals between worlds where offerings could be made to the gods of the earth. Some archaeologists have noted that the cave's circular form and carvings echo Celtic or early Saxon symbolism, though no definitive link has been found. And yet there are details that defy easy categorization. The walls show signs of deliberate shaping, but also of later erosion. The figures, though medieval in style, may have been recarved or restored at some point after discovery, blurring the line between what is authentic and what has been reimagined. The result is a puzzle that seems to rewrite itself each time it's studied. Standing inside Royston Cave, surrounded by the soft glow of candlelight, one senses both intimacy and unease. The figures seem to emerge from the rock as if alive, caught between prayer and warning. The acoustics amplify every sound. Even a whisper becomes a chant. It's easy to understand how myths grew around such a place. A hidden temple, a secret meeting ground, a time capsule of forgotten faith. Could the cave have been a repository of secret knowledge? A ceremonial chamber known only to a select few? Or simply the humble devotion of an unknown monk whose artistry outlived his name? Each theory fits just enough to be plausible, yet none explains everything. Today, Royston Cave is preserved and open to visitors. Guides lead small groups through the narrow stairway into the chamber, their voices echoing against the chalk. People come seeking history, but often leave with a sense of something else. Not fear exactly, but wonder. The carvings are not silent. They ask questions without words, and their meanings shift depending on who listens. Above ground, life in Royston continues as it has for centuries. Cars rumble over the crossroads, shops open, children pass on their way to school. Few stop to think that just below, beneath the rhythm of everyday life, lies a mystery that has endured nearly 1,000 years. What stories are carved into those walls waiting to be understood? Were they meant for us to find or meant to remain hidden? Perhaps the truth of Royston Cave lies somewhere in between faith and forgetting. In that quiet space where history blurs into legend and the earth itself keeps its own secrets. From the silent carved walls of Royston Cave, where human hands etch devotion and secrecy into living rock, our journey now takes us across oceans to the rugged ridges of the Big Horn Mountains in northern Wyoming. Here, high above the plains, lies a mystery laid not in stone walls, but in patterns upon the earth itself, a creation that stretches outward, touching both land and sky. This is the Big Horn Medicine Wheel. At first glance, it appears deceptively simple, a vast stone circle more than 80 ft across, marked by a central chiron from which 28 spokes radiate outward like spokes on a cosmic wheel. Smaller stone circles and cars surround the main circle, arranged with a precision that seems to defy randomness. From the ground, it is striking. From the air, it becomes almost hypnotic, a radial geometry carved into the landscape with meticulous care. On a clear morning, the rising sun illuminates the grey-white stones, casting long shadows that emphasize the symmetry, the deliberate order of something profoundly intentional. Archaeologists estimate that the structure was built centuries ago, possibly as early as 1200 CE, though some researchers suggest it may be even older. The construction required careful planning and labour, moving hundreds of stones to form the circle and spokes on a windswept ridge nearly 9,600 FT above sea level. The question arises immediately, why here? The ridge offers no water, no shelter, no arable land. Yet its height grants a panoramic view of the surrounding valleys and the distant peaks, a vantage point both commanding and isolating. Mainstream interpretations suggest that the medicine wheel served a sacred or ceremonial purpose for the indigenous peoples of the northern plains. The spokes align with celestial phenomena, the sunrise on the summer solstice, the moonrise at certain phases, the rising and setting points of specific stars. In this view, the wheel could have functioned as an astronomical calendar, a tool to track the cycles of the sun, moon and stars, which was central to agricultural hunting and ceremonial calendars. Yet, the site resists a single explanation. Unlike most solar or lunar observatories, the Bighorn Medicine Wheel incorporates features whose alignments do not correspond neatly to known astronomical events. Certain chirons point to distant mountain peaks that may hold symbolic significance, though the reason for choosing those particular landmarks remains uncertain. The patterns of stones appear deliberate, but their exact purpose, whether observational, spiritual, or something else entirely, is unknown. Some scholars propose a combination of ritual and astronomical function. Perhaps the medicine wheel was a sacred gathering site where communities came together to perform ceremonies, while observing celestial events. The number of spokes, 28, could correspond to the lunar cycle, reinforcing a connection between ritual and natural rhythms. Yet no, artifacts have been discovered within the wheel that confirm sustained habitation or repeated ceremonies, leaving the question of its practical use tantalizingly open. The enigmatic nature of the site has inspired a spectrum of more speculative interpretations. Some fringe theories suggest that the medicine wheel could be evidence of transcontinental knowledge of astronomy, predating European contact with North America. Others draw connections between Bighorn and similar stone circles elsewhere on the continent, proposing that it may have been part of a network of sacred sites aligned with astronomical and geomantic principles. Could the wheel represent an understanding of the cosmos encoded in stone, a map or a guide meant for those attuned to its secrets? Even within the indigenous traditions, the full meaning of the wheel remains elusive. Oral histories reference ceremonial practices and spiritual significance, yet the details are often intentionally withheld, preserved within the sacred knowledge of certain communities. The wheel's purpose may never have been meant to be fully understood by outsiders, a deliberate opacity that ensures its power endures. The physical construction itself raises questions. How did people transport and place hundreds of stones at such altitude without modern tools? How did they maintain the alignment over time, particularly in a place subject to harsh winds, snowfall, and erosion? These practical considerations underscore the ingenuity and determination of its builders and suggest that the site held profound importance enough to justify immense effort in a challenging environment. Perhaps the most compelling aspect of the Bighorn medicine wheel is its duality. It is both earthly and celestial, grounded and elevated. It connects the human desire to impose order on the landscape with the natural rhythms of the cosmos. It invites observation, contemplation, and participation, yet remains stubbornly opaque. To walk among the stones is to feel both awe and humility, a sense that one is touching the edge of human understanding where culture, faith, and nature converge. Over the centuries, the wheel has weathered storms, ice, and wind, yet its form remains remarkably intact. Researchers and visitors alike report a profound sense of quiet when standing within the circle, as though the stones themselves hold a memory, a message from the past. The landscape around it has changed. Forests regrown, roads carved, towns expanded. But the wheel persists, a sentinel of intent and mystery. And so as we stand on that high ridge in Wyoming, looking outward toward distant peaks and inward toward the center, Chiron, the mind naturally asks, what exactly did the builders of Bighorn intend for this place? Was it a calendar, a ceremonial site, or something that lies beyond our comprehension entirely? Could it have served multiple purposes? Its meaning layered like the cycles of the moon and sun, it seems to observe. The Bighorn medicine wheel remains a puzzle not of stones alone, but of time, culture, and perception. A reminder that human curiosity and reverence can leave marks that endure long after their creators have passed. The wheel asks us to look up, to look inward, and to wonder what secrets are encoded in the land, waiting for those who can read the rhythms of both earth and sky. Even after centuries of study, the answer remains elusive. And perhaps that is precisely the point. The wheel, like the stars it mirrors, is meant to provoke thought, contemplation, and awe. Its full story may never be known, leaving it as it has always been, a quiet mystery etched in stone, waiting for us to notice and question again and again. From the windswept ridges of Wyoming, where the Bighorn medicine wheel traces the celestial patterns of sun, moon, and stars, our journey descends into the verdant hills of western North Carolina. Hidden in a quiet forested valley near Cohee, a massive boulder waits in silence, a canvas of stone etched with symbols whose meaning has eluded historians for generations. This is Judacola Rock, and upon its surface lies one of the most enigmatic collections of petroglyphs in North America. At first glance, the rock is unassuming, a large outcrop of soapstone roughly 10 feet long, half submerged in the earth, moss and lichen softening its edges. But as one steps closer, the surface comes alive. Carved deeply into the stone are hundreds of markings, spirals, concentric circles, claw-like scratches, X's, stick figures, and intricate curvilinear designs that seem to move and shift as the light changes. The patterns are dense, chaotic at first, yet there is a rhythm, an underlying order that hints at intent. The petroglyphs are believed to have been created by the Cherokee, though the exact dating is uncertain. Some estimates suggest they may be as much as 3,000 years old, predating recorded history in the region. Unlike painted images, which fade over centuries, these carvings endure, stubbornly etched into the stone, speaking silently across millennia. Mainstream scholarship interprets the carvings in several ways. Many see Judaculla Rock as a territorial marker, a sacred site, or a ceremonial location. Anthropologists note that the rock lies near the headquarters of the Cullowhee River, a place abundant with wildlife and natural resources, which would have been central to the lives of indigenous peoples. Its location on a gentle ridge overlooking the valley suggests it could have served as both a spiritual and geographic anchor, a place where human activity met the rhythms of nature. But the carvings themselves resist simple explanation. Certain figures appear abstract, almost symbolic, while others resemble maps or diagrams. Some researchers propose that the complex patterns may record genealogies, migratory routes, or seasonal hunting information. Others suggest they might encode celestial events or star charts, though no alignment has been definitively confirmed. One of the most striking features is the prevalence of claw-like marks, long deep grooves that some interpret as the tracks of a great animal, perhaps even a mythic being from Cherokee oral tradition. Judaculla, a powerful spirit said to inhabit the surrounding mountains. According to legend, Judaculla was a giant, a master of the forests and rivers who marked the land with his claws. The petroglyphs may be a tribute, a warning, or a form of communication with this unseen presence. Beyond the Cherokee narrative, the complexity of the carvings has fueled more speculative theories. Some suggest that the rock may represent a prehistoric calendar tracking lunar cycles or solar movements. Others have proposed that it could be a site of shamanic ritual, a place where visions and spiritual experiences were mapped onto stone. A few fringe hypotheses even liken the carvings to symbols of unknown origin, messages from travelers or visitors whose purpose is lost to time. Despite decades of study, the carvings remain difficult to interpret. They defy categorization, existing in a space between art, ritual, and record. Unlike more uniform petroglyphs found in the southwest or the plains, Judaculla Rock offers no narrative sequence, no easily understood symbolism. Each groove, swirl, and notch could be deliberate or represent an evolving tradition repeated over generations. Perhaps the carvings were never meant to be fully understood by outsiders, a sacred language intended only for those initiated into its meaning. The physicality of the rock itself adds to the intrigue. Its size and smooth surface made it ideal for carving. Yet many of the deepest and most intricate designs would have required considerable effort. Some motifs are recessed so deeply that they could only have been made by multiple hands or by repeated work over years. What drove such dedication? What urgency or devotion inspired people to invest such labour into a single immovable stone? Modern technology has allowed researchers to study the petroglyphs in greater detail using photogrammetry, 3D scanning, and even infrared imaging to reveal markings invisible to the naked eye. These efforts have uncovered additional faint carvings, subtle layers, and signs of erosion that hint at centuries of human interaction. Yet, rather than clarifying the purpose, these discoveries deepen the mystery. Each layer seems to suggest multiple generations of use, multiple interpretations, multiple stories encoded into the stone. Judaculla Rock remains a site of reverence and fascination. Visitors report a palpable sense of quiet energy when standing near the boulder, a feeling that the carvings are more than images. They are a bridge between past and present, between human and spirit, between known and unknown. The surrounding forest amplifies the sense of isolation, and the murmur of nearby streams adds a rhythm to the silence, as though the landscape itself acknowledges the rock's presence. What did the creators hope to convey? Were they recording history, storytelling, marking territory, or communicating with the divine? Could the carvings serve multiple purposes simultaneously? Their meaning is fluid, evolving, and intentionally mysterious. Perhaps the most compelling aspect of Judaculla Rock is not in what it shows, but in what it withholds. Unlike structures we can date, or artifacts we can classify, the petroglyphs speak in symbols that resist translation, inviting contemplation without delivering closure. They are reminders that human expression is sometimes designed to endure not for understanding, but for wonder, to provoke reflection on the relationship between people, nature, and the unseen forces that shape life. Even today, as sunlight shifts across the boulder and shadows twist among the carvings, Judicular rock holds its secrets. It challenges observers to look closer, to consider not just what is depicted, but why it was created and for whom. The answers may lie lost to time, or perhaps they reside in the quiet acknowledgement that some mysteries are meant to persist. Standing before the ancient stone, one cannot help but ask, what stories were etched here? What knowledge was deemed too sacred, too complex, or too dangerous to speak aloud? And if we listen carefully, might the rock itself guide us, whispering hints of a world that has long since slipped beyond our understanding? The petroglyphs remain, enduring as they always have, etched in stone and spirit, an invitation to ponder, to question, and to wonder what might still be hidden in the folds of the forest and in the memory of the land itself. From the dense forests of western North Carolina, where the petroglyphs of Judicular rock hint at sacred knowledge and ancestral memory, our exploration now turns across continents and centuries to the heart of ancient Greece. Here, amid the olive-scented plains near Eleusis, lies a small but profoundly enigmatic artifact, the Ninian Tablet, a bronze relief that offers a tantalizing glimpse into one of antiquity's most secretive religious traditions, the Eleusinian Mysteries. The tablet itself is modest in size, perhaps no more than a foot in height, yet its impact is vast. The bronze is aged, darkened by centuries, but the figures remain distinct. Rows of finely detailed attendants, processional scenes, and ritual implements. At the centre, a seated figure presides, calm and authoritative, flanked by worshippers whose gestures suggest devotion, anticipation, or perhaps fear. Every line, every fold of drapery is rendered with care, betraying the skill of a craftsman intimately familiar with both form and narrative. The Ninian tablet dates to around the 4th century BCE, a time when Athens and its surrounding regions were flourishing in culture, philosophy, and religious practice. Yet, despite its craftsmanship, the tablet's purpose remains shrouded in mystery. It is generally linked to the Eleusinian Mysteries, secret rites honouring Deita, and her daughter Ophene, whose myth encapsulates themes of life, death, and rebirth. These rites were celebrated in Eleusis over centuries, drawing initiates from across the Greek world. Yet the specifics of the ceremonies were closely guarded. To reveal them was considered an act of sacrilege, punishable by severe penalties. What then does the tablet show? Scholars note that the scenes appear to depict the process of initiation, the journey from the profane into the sacred. Figures carry ritual objects, torches, and fire libation bowls, advancing toward a central structure interpreted as the Telesterion, the great hall of initiation at Eleusis. Yet despite centuries of study, the exact meaning of each figure, each gesture, each symbol remains uncertain. Unlike a narrative painting or a theatrical script, the tablet offers only fragments, moments captured in bronze, leaving the viewer to reconstruct the ritual in the mind's eye. Mainstream interpretations suggest the tablet functioned as a votive object, perhaps offered by an initiate to commemorate their passage through the mysteries. It may have served as a mnemonic device, a way to recall sacred knowledge, or as a symbolic token linking the participant to the goddess herself. In this reading, the Ninian tablet is both devotional and didactic, a tool that bridges the human and divine, the seen and the unseen. Yet several aspects of the tablet invite deeper inquiry. Certain figures appear elongated or stylized beyond what is strictly naturalistic, suggesting symbolic or esoteric meaning. Some gestures are unique, repeated only on this artifact, as if encoding instructions or experiences known only to the initiated. The central figure's identity is debated. Is it Demeter, Epiphany, or a priestess mediating between the mortal and immortal? The ambiguity is deliberate or perhaps unavoidable, reflecting the very secrecy that surrounded the mysteries themselves. The broader context of the Eleusinian rites deepens the intrigue. Initiates were sworn to silence, and their accounts are fragmentary array, filtered through outsiders or late commentators. Accounts suggest that the ceremonies involved purification, fasting, and a symbolic descent into the underworld, culminating in a revelation that promised a better understanding of life and death. Did the Ninian tablet capture a literal depiction of these events, or was it an allegorical guide meant to convey meaning through symbol rather than narrative clarity? Some more speculative interpretations posit that the tablet may encode cosmological or astronomical knowledge. The procession, the arrangement of figures, and the placement of ritual objects have been analysed for correlations with the phases of the moon, the cycles of the sun, or the movement of celestial bodies associated with Demeter and Epiphany. Could the Eleusinian mysteries, like other ancient rituals, have encoded an understanding of natural cycles and the rhythms of the cosmos cloaked in secrecy so only the initiated could perceive them? Others suggest the tablet's meaning transcends ritual entirely, hinting at esoteric, philosophical, or metaphysical teachings. Plato and other thinkers of the era often linked sacred knowledge to ethical and spiritual insight. Could the Ninian tablet in its compact form be a map of the soul's journey, a symbolic representation of human experience as it passes through stages of ignorance, trial, and enlightenment? Even the provenance of the artifact adds to its enigmatic aura. It was discovered near Elis in the late 19th century, carefully excavated. Yet its journey from creation to modern display is opaque. Was it lost, hidden, or deliberately buried to protect it from desecration? Did it remain in the possession of initiates for generations before being discarded or offered as a votive gift? Each of these possibilities suggests layers of intent and secrecy, reinforcing the aura of mystery. Standing before the Ninian tablet, one cannot help but sense the weight of human longing and curiosity it embodies. It is a small object, yet it speaks of vast experiences, the fear of the unknown, the desire for communion with forces beyond the mortal, and the quest to understand life's cycles. Its carvings are silent, yet they provoke reflection, inviting us to imagine the ceremonies, the chants, and the collective anticipation of those who once gazed upon it. What exactly did the initiates see within the telesterion? What revelations did they experience? And how might this tablet preserve echoes of those truths? Could its symbols convey knowledge lost to time, insights into life, death, and the cosmos that we are no longer equipped to fully interpret? Perhaps the ultimate mystery of the Ninian tablet is the same as that of the Eleusinian mysteries themselves, a secret held too closely to fully reveal itself, yet inscribed in bronze as a reminder that some knowledge is meant to inspire wonder, not comprehension. The figures remain frozen in their silent procession, waiting for eyes attuned to their meaning, challenging us to consider that the most profound truths are often those we cannot fully see. And so, as the sun sets over the plains of Eleusis, casting long shadows across ancient olive groves, the Ninian tablet endures, a small enigmatic portal into the sacred, a silent witness to rituals, secrets, and mysteries that have survived millennia, and yet, like the mysteries themselves, remain beyond our complete understanding. From the olive-scented plains of Eleusis, where the Ninian tablet preserves echoes of secret rites, our journey now takes us south across the Mediterranean into the vast sun-bleached expanse of Egypt's western desert. Here, amid the undulating sand dunes and the relentless horizon, lies a strange solitary landmark, Abu Bali's Pottery Hill, a silent witness to journeys that defy easy explanation. From afar, Abu Balis appears unremarkable, a low mound of sand and stone stretching for hundreds of meters, scorched by the desert sun. But closer inspection reveals its most curious feature: shards of pottery scattered across the surface, ancient vessels broken yet placed with discernible care. The hill is not naturally formed. It is a human-made accumulation, a deliberate deposit that has endured for thousands of years, weathering wind, sandstorms, and the passage of time. Archaeologists date the pottery to roughly 3,500 to 4,000 years ago, placing it in Egypt's Old and Middle Kingdom periods. The shards are predominantly utilitarian bowls, jars, and storage vessels, but they bear distinctive marks. Some inscribed with simple symbols, others smoothed and polished, suggesting careful selection. Their presence here, deep within one of the most inhospitable regions on Earth, immediately raises a question. Why would people transport fragile objects hundreds of miles into a desert landscape with no apparent settlements nearby? Abu Balis is situated along what is now known as the Abu Balis Trail, a route connecting the Nile Valley to the oases of the Western Desert, including Gilf Kabir and Jebel Uvat. For millennia, this corridor functioned as a lifeline across a barren expanse, a path for traders, hunters, and explorers. Yet the trail's isolation amplifies the mystery. Carrying pottery across scorching sands over shifting dunes without immediate access to water would have required careful planning, resilience, and purpose. The mainstream explanation holds that Abu Barlis served as a depot or staging post for desert expeditions. Travellers could leave supplies of pottery, water, or food here, retrieving them on return journeys, or using the hill as a waypoint to navigate the endless sands. The scattered shards in this view are remnants of these practical activities, broken or abandoned items left behind over generations. However, there are aspects of the site that challenge this pragmatic interpretation. The density of the deposit suggests more than casual abandonment. The hill contains layers of pottery arranged in clusters, sometimes stacked or placed deliberately. Certain shards show signs of ritual treatment, burning, engraving, or smoothing that transcends mere utility. Could Abu Barlis have held a symbolic or ceremonial function in addition to its practical role? Some researchers have proposed that Abu Barlis may have served as a spiritual or ritual landmark, a marker in a landscape otherwise devoid of distinctive features. In cultures across the Sahara, desert hills, rocks, and isolated landmarks often held sacred significance, guiding travellers while marking points of connection between humans and the vast unknowable desert. Perhaps the act of leaving pottery here was more than logistical. Perhaps it was an offering, a form of communication, or a protective measure invoking the favour of desert spirits. Others suggest that Abu Barlis could be linked to long-distance dance trade or early exploration of the Sahara. The pottery shows stylistic influences from different regions of the Nile Valley, hinting at a network of movement and cultural exchange that extended far beyond the immediate surroundings. But if trade was the only goal, why rely on fragile ceramics in such a punishing environment? And why choose this particular mound in the middle of a desert that offers no water, no shelter, and no obvious strategic advantage? More speculative interpretations deepen the mystery. Some theorists argue that Abu Barlis may have been part of a larger, still hidden network of desert way stations, their placement reflecting advanced knowledge of terrain, water sources, and seasonal winds. Others propose that the hill had astronomical or cylindrical significance, aligning with distant peaks, star patterns, or the position of the sun during key points in the agricultural or ceremonial calendar. Could it be that travellers of the Old Kingdom were not merely crossing the desert, but also marking time, space, or sacred events in ways we have yet to fully understand? The physical context of Abu Barlis amplifies the enigma. The surrounding desert is harsh, its temperatures extreme, its terrain unforgiving, vegetation is sparse, survival is tenuous. For the people who left pottery here, the desert was not empty, it was alive, a landscape demanding respect and knowledge. Leaving fragile vessels at top of a sand-swept hill would have been a conscious decision, one imbued with meaning, whether practical, spiritual, or both. Modern archaeologists using surveys, aerial photography, and satellite imagery have mapped the Abu Barlis Trail and its associated sites, revealing a pattern of small, often isolated deposits along the route. Yet even with this data, the purpose of the pottery hill remains uncertain. Each shard, each cluster serves as a reminder of human determination, of the willingness to cross impossible distances, and of the layers of intent that survive long after the hands that crafted and carried them are gone. Standing at Abu Barlis today, one feels the immensity of the desert pressing in from all sides. The wind shifts the sand, erasing footprints and carrying whispers of journeys long past. It is easy to imagine travellers pausing here millennia ago, leaving a vessel as a token of passage, a prayer, or a message for those who would follow. Yet what those travellers truly thought, hoped, or believed is beyond reach. Locked in the silence of the desert and the fragments of clay that remain. Why this mound? Why these vessels? Were they purely utilitarian, or did they serve a deeper symbolic function? Could Abu Barlis be part of a vast undiscovered network of sacred or practical waypoints across the Sahara? Abu Barlis Pottery Hill endures as it has for thousands of years, a silent sentinel atop the shifting sands, holding the memory of human endeavour, mystery and resilience. Its fragments invite reflection, its emptiness inspires curiosity, and its very existence compels us to ask, what do the desert travellers know that we have yet to rediscover? And perhaps what else lies hidden beneath the sands, waiting for the right eyes to uncover it? from the sun-scotched sands of Egypt's Abu Balis Pottery Hill, where shards of ancient vessels hint at desert expeditions and possible ritual, our journey now turns northwest across continents and millennia to the rolling plains and rugged hills of West Texas. Here, amid dry washes and isolated outcrops, lie thousands of small enigmatic impressions pressed into stone, the Cononcho stone markings. The first impression is one of scale and subtlety. The stones themselves are unassuming. Flat weathered slabs of limestone scattered across the landscape, their surfaces smoothed by wind, water and centuries of exposure. Yet upon closer examination, a pattern emerges. Small round depressions, cup-like indentations ranging from a few centimetres to nearly a foot across, are arranged with startling regularity. Lines of dots, clusters, concentric circles, and geometric shapes appear across hundreds of stones, their purpose and origin unclear. In some cases, the markings are shallow, barely perceptible. In others, they are deeply carved, resisting the erosion of time. Archaeologists estimate that the markings were created over a span of centuries, perhaps as early as 1000 BC, though precise dating is difficult due to the lack of associated organic material. What is clear is that they were not formed randomly. Each stone shows signs of deliberate action, and the motifs, while varied, often repeat across multiple sites. The scale of the markings and their distribution suggest a sustained cultural practice. Yet the cultural identity of those who made them is debated. Some propose early Native American groups of the plains and southwest, while others suggest influences from distant, less understood traditions of the region. The mainstream interpretation frames the markings as petroglyphs with ceremonial or symbolic purposes. Scholars point to parallels with other cup-marked stones across the Americas and Europe, where similar depressions are associated with ritual fertility or territorial markers. Some argue that the Concho stones may have served as a form of early kendrical device mapping lunar cycles, solstices or seasonal changes, yet the precise function remains speculative. The layout and orientation of the markings add layers to the mystery. Many stones are aligned with natural features, the horizon, rivers, or distant mountain peaks. Could these alignments reflect an early understanding of astronomy? Some researchers note clusters of stones that suggest intentional pathways or gathering sites. Perhaps the markings were intended to guide travellers, mark sacred locations, or delineate territory. But without written records, these remain hypotheses. More intriguing are the abstract forms present on some stones. Spirals, concentric circles, and seemingly abstract configurations challenge straightforward interpretations. Some may represent mythological or cosmological ideas encoded in a symbolic language now lost. Others may be mnemonic devices, reminders of events or tools for ritual practice. The ambiguity is deliberate or perhaps unavoidable. The meaning may have been intimately tied to the cultural context of their creators, a context erased over time. The Concho stones also present physical challenges. The regions in which they are found are often remote and inhospitable. Arid plains, steep hills, or eroded riverbeds. Transporting, shaping, and arranging stones in these conditions would have required effort and coordination, suggesting that the practice held significant importance for those who undertook it. Unlike everyday tools or domestic artifacts, these markings do not have an immediate utilitarian purpose. Their creation was an investment of time, labour, and attention, hinting at symbolic or social significance. Speculative theories have emerged over the years, some more radical than others. A few researchers suggest the markings may have been part of a system for recording or transmitting knowledge, a prototyping of sorts. Could the cup marks and geometric shapes have encoded information about resources, seasonal movements, or spiritual narratives? Others propose that the markings were part of ceremonial games, shamanic rituals, or initiation practices where each stone held significance for those who understood its meaning. Some have even speculated on astronomical connections, alignments with solstices, equinoxes, or celestial bodies that would have been visible to observers thousands of years ago. Yet there are limitations. Many stones show signs of natural erosion or disruption, complicating attempts to discern patterns. Others have been displaced, broken, or obscured by modern activity, making it difficult to reconstruct the original context. Each observation is a glimpse into a partially lost world, a fragment of a practice that may have been widespread, intricate, and culturally profound. Walking among the stones, one feels the weight of time. The landscape is quiet, expansive, and empty, yet the markings create a dialogue across centuries. They ask questions without providing answers, drawing the observer into contemplation. What beliefs motivated their creation? What stories, rituals, or knowledge are encoded in these depressions? Were they meant for many to see, or only for a select few who understood their meaning? Perhaps the most compelling aspect of the concho stone markings is precisely this ambiguity. They endure as an invitation to wonder, to consider how humans in distant times perceived their world, structured their experiences, and sought to leave traces behind. Each stone is both a tool and a mystery, a simple impression, yet a potential key to understanding cultures whose voices we no longer hear. Even today, as the Texas sun shifts across the hills and shadows creep across the carved depressions, the stones hold their silence. They remind us that some knowledge is ephemeral, surviving only in the labour and intention of those who came before. The markings endure, waiting for patient observation, careful interpretation, and perhaps a moment of insight that has eluded generations. Why were these impressions made? What patterns or meanings are hidden in plain sight on these weathered stones? And how many other traces of this practice lie undiscovered, buried under sand, soil, or vegetation, waiting to speak to those willing to listen? The concho stone markings remain a quiet mystery etched into the land, bridging the distant past and the present, inviting all who encounter them to ponder the intentions, rituals, and knowledge of a people who left their mark on stone and yet deliberately or not, left their story largely untold. From the arid expanses of West Texas, where the concho stone markings etch human intention into stone, our journey now moves far to the heart of Africa, to a time when human ingenuity was taking its first tangible steps toward abstraction. Deep within the forests and servers near the upper reaches of the Congo River, along the banks of the Emliki River in what is now the Democratic Republic of Congo, an extraordinary artifact emerged in the 1950s, the Ashango bone. At first glance, the Ashango bone is deceptively simple, a darkened, weathered piece of fibula, roughly 6 in long with a slight curve that suggests it was once part of a handheld tool. Its surface is polished with age, and at one end, a sharp point remains, hinting at practical use. Yet along one edge, a series of meticulously carved notches immediately distinguishes this object from a mere utilitarian implement. These grooves are arranged in organised groups, their depth and spacing deliberate, hinting at counting, recording, or symbolic expression. The bone is believed to be over 20,000 years old, placing it firmly within the Upper Paleolithic, a time when humans were navigating survival, communication, and social organisation in small bands of hunter-gatherers. The site of its discovery near the shores of Lake Edward is rich in other prehistoric artefacts, yet the Ashango bone stands apart. Unlike stone tools used for cutting, scraping, or hunting, this object seems abstract, its purpose symbolic rather than purely practical. Mainstream scholarship often frames the Ashango bone as one of humanity's earliest attempts at arithmetic. The notches appear in 3 distinct columns, each with different numbers of grooves. Some groups show patterns of doubling, others suggest prime numbers or sequences that could indicate a rudimentary understanding of mathematics. Could this small piece of bone be humanity's first calculator? A device used to track quantities, time, or celestial cycles? Perhaps it was a tally stick for counting games, trading goods, or marking lunar phases. Simple utility intertwined with the human need to measure and understand. Yet, as with many artifacts, of the distant past certainty remains elusive. The patterns of notches are open to interpretation. While some researchers emphasize the mathematical structure, others caution that imposing modern notions of arithmetic risks misunderstanding the intentions of the Ashango people. Could the marks instead be symbolic, ritualistic, or mnemonic, recording stories, agreements, or spiritual observances in a form lost to time? Further intrigue arises when considering the dual nature of the Ashango bone. One end is sharpened, suggesting practical use as a probe, spear tip, or tool. The other is inscribed with careful repetitive markings. Was the object multi-purpose? A combination of utility and symbolism? Did its owner carry it daily, using it for survival tasks while simultaneously encoding knowledge in its notches? Or was it reserved for specific occasions, a ceremonial tally preserved and passed through generations? speculative interpretations deepened the mystery. Some theorists propose that the Issa bone represents a protocol, a system to track lunar months or seasons essential for coordinating hunting, foraging, and communal gatherings. Others suggest a more abstract, perhaps philosophical function, a representation of duality, cycles, or the concept of number itself, pointing to cognitive capacities far earlier than previously assumed. Could this object be evidence that the seeds of mathematical thought, abstraction, pattern recognition, and symbolic representation were present in human societies tens of thousands of years ago? The physical characteristics of the bone add further layers to its story. Carved with care, the notches are consistent in size and orientation, revealing intentionality and precision. The choice of fibula from a medium-sized animal rather than stone or wood may have been pragmatic, but it could also have held symbolic resonance. Animal bones carried cultural significance, connecting the practical with the spiritual, the material with the metaphysical. Was the bone a bridge between the physical and the intellectual, a handheld conduit for abstract thought? Despite decades of study, the artifact continues to provoke debate. Scholars have examined the notches with magnification, counted and recounted the sequences, compared them to known numerical systems, and even tested experimental uses. Yet, each answer uncovers new questions. Were the marks meant to be read by a single person, a community, or perhaps an initiatory circle? Did they represent concrete reality, quantities, time, trade, or something intangible, encoded knowledge, or memory? Standing in the presence of the Ashango bone, one senses both simplicity and profundity. It is a small object, yet it embodies human curiosity, the desire to understand and record, to impose order on a chaotic world. The notches are silent, yet they communicate across the millennia, asking us to consider what it means to think abstractly, to count, to symbolize, and to seek understanding, beyond immediate survival. Could the Ashango bone represent the very first step toward formal mathematics, an origin point of human logic and reasoning? Or is it a record of something altogether different, a symbolic artifact whose meaning is lost to the centuries? Perhaps it is both, or perhaps it is a reminder that some forms of knowledge cannot be fully reconstructed, only intuited. Even today, as researchers examine the grooves and try to decode their logic, the Ashango bone remains an enduring mystery. It asks us to imagine the lives of its makers, the hunter-gatherers of Central Africa, who moved through forests, rivers and savas, wielding sharp tools, observing the sky, and carving patterns into bone to capture fleeting knowledge. What knowledge did they hold? What concepts were so vital, so profound that they etched them into the fragile medium of bone, leaving a trace that has survived tens of thousands of years? The Ashango bone persists as a testament to human ingenuity and curiosity, a silent ancient witness to the birth of abstract thought, inviting us to wonder what other secrets lie waiting in the hands of our distant ancestors, still waiting to be understood. From the small carved grooves of the Ashango bone, where prehistoric humans encoded their understanding of number and pattern, we now move across continents and into the rugged remote highlands of southern Africa. Here in the wild expanses of Lotho and the border regions of South Africa lie enigmatic stone constructions known locally as the works of the old men. These stone structures, scattered across hills and valleys, have long captured the imagination of scholars, travellers, and the local communities that have passed down stories of their origin for generations. At first sight, the works of the old men appear deceptively simple. Low walls of stone, circular and oval in shape, rise only a few feet from the ground, their form unassuming against the vast landscape. Some enclosures are small, no larger than a modest dwelling, while others extend in winding terraces across the hillsides, hugging the contours of the terrain. Paths of stone align with certain walls, creating corridors, platforms, and in some areas, clusters that suggest planning beyond mere functional use. The stones themselves are irregular, uncut, and stacked with a precision that seems intuitive rather than engineered. Yet the scale and complexity of the sites hint at knowledge passed down and refined over time. Archaeologists date many of these structures to several centuries ago, yet some suggest the possibility of far older origins, as the methods of construction show a remarkable resilience to erosion and the shifting landscape. Mainstream interpretations often classify the structures as livestock enclosures, grain storage areas, or temporary shelters consistent with the pastoral and agricultural practices of the local basa and sand communities. The circular forms in particular are thought to have been ideal for coring sheep or cattle, while terraces may have helped in managing water runoff or demarcating plots of land. Yet despite these practical explanations, the works of the old men retain a sense of mystery. Unlike most pastoral constructions, these stone walls appear in locations that are inconvenient for everyday use: high ridges, steep slopes, or isolated plateaus far from water sources. Their distribution across the landscape lacks the clear pattern one might expect from functional settlements or farmsteads. Could these sites have served purposes beyond the practical? Their placement is intended to mark territory, track astronomical events, or serve spiritual or ceremonial functions. Local folklore deepens the enigma. The Booth among whom these structures are found have long referred to them as the creations of mythical ancestors or old men, beings of extraordinary knowledge and power. Some tales speak of giants or ancient beings whose wisdom predated recorded history, who shaped the land with stone for reasons now lost to memory. While oral tradition cannot be taken as literal evidence, it does reflect the enduring impression these constructions have left on the human imagination, suggesting significance that transcends utility. Further intrigue arises from the construction patterns themselves. Certain walls and terraces appear to align with natural features, riverbeds, distant peaks, or unusual rock formations. Some researchers have proposed that the sites could have served as observatories or calendar markers, with the rising or setting sun casting shadows along the walls during solstices or equinoxes. Others note that the enclosures sometimes form geometric patterns, only fully appreciable from elevated vantage points, leading to speculation that their creators were aware of spatial design principles or symbolic layouts whose purpose remains obscure. Speculative theories abound. Some scholars suggest that the works of the old men might represent a lost cultural or religious practice, a form of sacred geography etched into stone. Could they have been pilgrimage markers, ceremonial sites, or the physical manifestation of oral stories and communal memory? Others propose that the structures might indicate knowledge of land management far ahead of what we usually attribute to pre-colonial Southern African societies. A sophisticated integration of terrain, water flow, and social organisation encoded in dry stone. Yet there are unanswered questions that no theory fully resolves. How were the structures built and maintained without mortar or formal tools yet endure for centuries? Why are some sites far from obvious human activity or water sources, as if they were intentionally placed in isolation? Do the circular and elongated shapes hold symbolic meaning perhaps related to cosmology, social hierarchy, or ancestral reverence? Modern archaeologists have begun employing satellite imagery, aerial photography, and digital mapping to document the sites more systematically. These technologies reveal extensive networks of walls, terraces, and enclosures across hundreds of square kilometres, hinting at a scale of planning and organisation that challenges our assumptions about the societies that lived here. Yet, even with this technology, the fundamental questions persist. The intent, the cultural meaning, and the knowledge that informed these constructions remain elusive. Walking among the stone terraces and enclosures, one cannot ignore the sense of human continuity and purpose. The structures evoke a deliberate interaction with the land, an assertion of presence, knowledge, and permanence. The stones themselves, weathered to grey and brown, carry the weight of generations, the labour of countless hands, and the imprint of decisions made long ago. Decisions whose reasons have been obscured by time. The works of the old men invite reflection. Were these merely practical enclosures shaped by pastoral necessity? Or were they deliberate statements, inscriptions on the landscape meant to convey knowledge, power, or spirituality? Could the wisdom of the old men have encompassed a worldview lost to history, encoded in stone for those who could read it? Even today, as the wind sweeps across the ridges and valleys, the walls stand in silence, challenging observers to consider their purpose. What stories did these structures hold? What knowledge, practical or symbolic, guided their creation? And how much more remains hidden, perhaps buried in layers of soil or memory, waiting for those with patience and curiosity to uncover it? The works of the old men endure as monuments to human ingenuity, mystery, and imagination. remind us that the landscapes we traverse today were shaped not just by nature, but by countless generations of humans whose intentions and knowledge may forever remain partially beyond our grasp. From the dry stone enclosures of southern Africa, the works of the old men, where generations left enduring marks upon rugged hillsides, we now move across continents to the dense, humid expanses of the Amazon basin. Beneath the thick canopy of trees, along winding rivers and hidden among remote valleys, lie enigmatic signs of human expression. Untranslated glyphs etched into stone, clay, and pottery. Remnants of scripts that remain undeciphered to this day. At first sight, these glyphs are subtle, almost easy to overlook amid the vibrant chaos of the rainforest. On ancient ceramic vessels, the symbols appear as flowing lines, angular shapes, and intricate motifs, their surfaces darkened by centuries of burial and exposure. On stone outcrops, clusters of glyphs are carved with careful precision, each mark deliberate, the result of painstaking labour by hands long gone. Some symbols resemble abstract geometric shapes. Others hint at stylized depictions of animals, humans, or celestial forms, but none correspond to any known writing system. Archaeologists and ethnographers believe that these glyphs date back at least a millennium, though some may be far older. They are scattered across vast regions of the Amazon from Brazil to Peru and Colombia, often in locations that suggest ritual or communal importance near ceremonial mounds, along riverbanks, or at the edges of settlements now reclaimed by forest. The density and consistency of these symbols across different sites suggests that they were part of a shared cultural or linguistic tradition, yet one that vanished before leaving a written record we can interpret today. Mainstream interpretations offer several possibilities. Some researchers propose that the glyphs were primarily ritualistic or ceremonial, a symbolic language used by shamans, priests, or community leaders to convey spiritual ideas or mark sacred spaces. Others suggest they were praetoriting, a system for recording events, lineage, trade, or territorial boundaries, an attempt to organise and preserve knowledge in a medium durable enough to endure the tropical climate. Yet, despite centuries of study, no one has definitively deciphered the scripts, and no Rosetta Stone equivalent has been discovered. Certain glyphs appear in recurring patterns suggesting structured syntax or a symbolic grammar. Horizontal and vertical sequences may indicate phrases or ideas, while repeated motifs could function as numerical or cylindrical markers. Some symbols bear resemblance to later indigenous iconography, hinting at possible continuity between pre-Columbian cultures and the traditions of historical tribes. Could these markings represent a language lost to time that recorded history, knowledge, and belief systems now largely erased? The glyph's placement within the Amazon landscape raises further questions. Many are found near ancient ceremonial mounds or earthworks, sites that indicate complex social organisation. Others are situated in remote, difficult-to-access areas, suggesting the creators selected locations deliberately, perhaps for spiritual reasons, or to preserve knowledge from casual view. Why were some glyphs inscribed in highly visible locations, while others remain hidden beneath overgrowth or buried in sediment? The choices seem deliberate, yet the reasoning is elusive. Speculative theories abound, reflecting the mystery that surrounds these ancient signs. Some suggest that the glyphs were part of a broader system of knowledge combining astronomy, ecology, and ritual practice, a means of mapping the cycles of rivers, the movement of stars, or the growth of crops. Others propose that they may have encoded mythologies, oral histories, or esoteric teachings intended to be read only by those initiated into particular cultural or spiritual traditions. Could the Amazon glyphs represent a sophisticated form of symbolic communication, entirely independent of the old world scripts we often use as points of comparison? The physical act of creating the glyphs is itself compelling. The rainforest environment is unforgiving. High humidity, rainfall, and plant overgrowth threaten to erase marks quickly, yet the creators carved deeply into stone, fired clay, or painted resilient pigments, ensuring that their symbols would endure. Each mark represents both intent and knowledge, an awareness of materials, tools, and permanence. The labour involved implies significance. These were not casual doodles, but meaningful records, whether for ritual, memory, or instruction. Modern researchers employ advanced techniques to study the glyphs, including 3D scanning, photogrammetry, and infrared imaging, revealing faded or hidden marks invisible to the naked eye. These technologies have uncovered additional symbols and allowed for comparative analysis across multiple sites, suggesting recurring patterns and potential vocabulary in the inscriptions. Yet even with these tools, interpretation remains speculative. Are these glyphs part of a coherent writing system, or a series of loosely connected symbolic representations? Standing before the glyphs in the forest, one is struck by their enduring presence and quiet authority. The symbols communicate across centuries without uttering a word, inviting reflection on the lives of those who carved them, the knowledge they sought to preserve, the rituals they performed, the world they experienced. It is a reminder that human curiosity, creativity, and reverence for the unseen have long inspired acts of preservation, even in the most challenging environments. What knowledge did these glyphs encode? Were they messages, records, or prayers? Did the creators anticipate that future generations would try to understand their meaning? Or were the symbols meant solely for those who shared the cultural context in which they were made? Could the scripts represent a language lost to time, or a system of symbols whose significance can only ever be partially reconstructed? The untranslated glyphs of the Amazon remain a profound mystery, a silent testament to the ingenuity and vision of the region's ancient peoples. They endure in the forest, waiting for careful observation and insight, inviting wonder rather than offering certainty. And as we explore them today, it is impossible not to ask, what other knowledge lies hidden in the dense canopy and along the winding rivers of the Amazon, waiting for those with the patience, curiosity, and imagination to uncover it? These glyphs, like so many other mysteries we have encountered, remind us that the past is not fully known, that human history is layered with intentions, practices, and ideas that continue to challenge our understanding. The Amazon holds its secrets tightly, preserving the marks of its earliest scribes, whose stories have yet to be translated and whose voices whisper faintly across time, asking only to be recognized. From the dense forests and winding rivers of the Amazon, where untranslated glyphs hint at lost languages and forgotten civilizations, our journey now moves northward across continents and millennia, to a small island in the Baltic Sea, Öland off the coast of modern-day Sweden. Here lies a chilling, enigmatic site known as Sandborg, a fortress whose walls conceal one of the most haunting archaeological discoveries of recent decades. At first glance, Sandborg appears as many Iron Age ring fortresses do, a roughly circular stone wall enclosing an area of about 120 metres in diameter, punctuated by a single entrance surrounded by low embankments and the faint traces of outer ditches. From above, it could easily be mistaken for any number of defensive sites built between the 5th and 7th centuries CE. Yet within these walls, archaeologists uncovered a scene that is both extraordinary and unsettling. The remains of nearly 60 individuals, men, women, and children, arranged as if they fell where they stood, victims of a sudden and violent event. Radiocarbon dating places the catastrophe at around 400 to 500 CE during the migration period, a time of upheaval across northern Europe. Skeletal analysis shows signs of trauma, fractures from blunt force, cuts from blades, and injuries inflicted on both the living and the recently dead. The bodies, remarkably well preserved in the region's alkaline soil, suggest that this was not a battle where the wounded were carried away, but a mass execution, a sudden and complete slaughter. Doors were left open, weapons and everyday items were abandoned. There is no evidence of prolonged fighting or siege. The fortress, once a place of refuge and defence, became a tomb. Mainstream interpretations frame Sandborg as a tragic example of conflict in a turbulent era. Yet many questions remain unanswered. Who were the attackers? And why was this small, seemingly isolated community singled out? Was it a raid by rival tribes, a vendetta, or a broader political maneuver during a period of migration and unrest? The completeness of the massacre, every inhabitant killed, no signs of escape, suggests an intent not just to conquer, but to erase a population entirely. Equally mysterious is the absence of plunder. Many of the fort's possessions remain undisturbed. Jewellery, tools, and personal items that would typically attract looters are left behind. Why would the attackers kill without taking the wealth of the victims? Some archaeologists suggest this may indicate a ritual or symbolic purpose, a statement intended to terrorize, erase, or communicate power rather than a simple quest for material gain. Could Sandbebora represent not just a massacre, but a deliberate act of social or spiritual destruction? The forensic evidence adds layers to the mystery. Some skeletons show repeated blows, suggesting extreme violence, or perhaps a desire to ensure death. Others are positioned unnaturally, as though moved after death or hastily placed. Artifacts hint at everyday life being interrupted. A clay pot on a hearth, a comb in the rubble, a child's bracelet lying near a crushed skull. These intimate details create a haunting tableau, a moment, frozen in time that offers glimpses into both human cruelty and human vulnerability. Speculative theories abound. Some suggest the massacre was linked to political upheaval. The migration period saw shifting alliances, invasions, and dynastic disputes across Scandinavia. Could San Georg have been caught in the crossfire of a larger power struggle? Others propose ritualistic motives, interpreting the killings as sacrifices, purges, or symbolic acts meant to assert dominance or appease deities. The precision and thoroughness of the violence hint at planning, intent, and a knowledge of the fortress's layout. Even the site itself raises questions. Sandborg is one of several ring fortresses built in Sweden during this era, yet it differs in notable ways. Its walls are well constructed, but there is evidence that the settlement was modest, perhaps intended as a refuge for a small community rather than a major military stronghold. Why target such a small group so ruthlessly? And why leave the fortress intact after the massacre rather than demolish it? The answers are elusive, obscured by time and the motives of those who acted with decisive brutality. Modern archaeology has allowed unprecedented insight into Sandborg. Ground-penetrating radar, LiDAR scanning, and careful excavation have mapped the positions of bodies, artifacts and structures, revealing the scale and immediacy of the massacre. Yet despite these technological advances, the human story remains largely inaccessible. The identities of the victims, the nature of their lives, and the precise reasoning behind their deaths remain largely speculative. Walking among the remains of Sandborg today, one cannot ignore the palpable sense of tension and tragedy embedded in the earth. The site evokes both fear and contemplation, a stark reminder of the fragility of human life and the enduring imprint of violence on memory and landscape. Every stone wall, every skeletal fragment, every abandoned artifact invites reflection on the forces, political, social, and perhaps spiritual, that shaped the lives and deaths of those who lived here. What exactly drove the massacre at Sandborg? Were these acts purely political, the result of tribal warfare, or something more symbolic, perhaps intended to convey a message to surrounding communities? Could the fort and its inhabitants have been selected for reasons we may never fully comprehend? Their fate sealed by circumstances lost to history, Sandborg stands today as a silent testament to human tragedy, a site that bridges the past and present, inviting observers to ponder not just what happened, but why. Its walls guard their secrets. The victims' stories are buried beneath layers of soil and memory, and the questions it raises remain unanswered. As the wind sweeps across the Baltic shores, one cannot help but wonder, what echoes of human intent, of fear, and of brutality still resonate here? And what lessons does this frozen moment in time hold for those who seek to understand the complexities of our shared past? From the haunting stone walls and silent graves of Sandborg, where human violence froze a community in time, we now journey southwest across centuries and landscapes to the rolling chalk hills of Oxfordshire, England. Here, etched into the earth on the steep slopes of the Berkshire Downs, stretches a figure both striking and enigmatic. The Uffington White Horse, a hill figure whose origins and meaning continue to puzzle archaeologists, historians, and casual observers alike. Viewed from the valley below, the White Horse appears impossibly long and elegant, a sinuous creature of pure white chalk snaking across the hillside. Its stylized form, elongated legs, angular head, and sweeping neck suggests motion captured in abstraction. A creature forever galloping across the landscape. From above, its full shape emerges in breathtaking clarity, a precise geometric marvel contrasting with the organic contours of the surrounding downs. The hill itself rises steeply, making the figure visible for miles, a permanent marker that interacts with both the land and the sky. Archaeological evidence dates the Uffington White Horse to the late Bronze Age or early Iron Age around 3,000 years ago. Unlike other chalk figures in England, which often date to medieval or more recent periods, this horse predates written history in the region. Excavations have revealed that the figure was carefully constructed, trenches carved into the hillside filled with compacted chalk, maintained and refreshed over centuries. It is not a casual creation. It required planning, labour and knowledge of geometry and proportion, suggesting it was of considerable importance to the communities who built it. Mainstream interpretations propose that the white horse served ritual or symbolic purposes. Some suggest it marked tribal territory, a sign of identity for the people who lived in the Berkshire Downs. Others link it to fertility rites, seasonal celebrations or religious observances, perhaps connected to the cult of horses, a motif seen elsewhere in Bronze Age Europe. The figure's prominence on the landscape may have served as both a landmark and a spiritual symbol, visible to travellers, worshippers, and rival communities alike. Yet even with these plausible explanations, the Huffington White Horse retains an aura of mystery. Its stylized form is unlike naturalistic depictions. It emphasizes abstraction over anatomical accuracy. Why choose such a design, so elegant yet so peculiar? Some have argued that the elongation of its legs and neck reflects a symbolic rather than literal purpose, perhaps representing speed, power, or the transcendence of the horse as a spiritual animal. Could it have been a celestial guide, a terrestrial reflection of constellations, or a marker aligned with the sun or moon at specific times of year? Adding intrigue is the figure's relationship to the surrounding landscape. The White Horse lies in proximity to Huffington Castle, an Iron Age hill fort and numerous burial mounds. This placement suggests a deliberate connection to human activity, ritual, and memory. Was the horse intended as a guardian for the dead, a marker of sacred ground, or a visual link between the living and the ancestors? Some theorists propose that its visibility across miles of rolling downs was designed to impress or intimidate outsiders, a demonstration of territorial or spiritual power encoded in chalk and earth. Speculative interpretations extend even further. Some researchers have proposed that the White Horse served as part of an ancient astronomical or kundric system, marking solstices, equinoxes, or lunar events. Others have suggested that the figure represents a totemic or mythological entity embodying cultural narratives now lost to time. Could the horse be connected to ritual horse sacrifices documented in later Celtic traditions, or even to myths of the sun chariot where the horse carried celestial bodies across the sky? The possibilities are tantalizing yet impossible to confirm with certainty. The construction methods themselves are revealing. The trench and chalk technique required significant knowledge, selecting suitable chalk, compacting it for durability, and maintaining the figure over centuries. That the horse remains visible today after millennia of erosion, weather, and human activity is a testament to both the ingenuity and the cultural importance of the creation. Its continued upkeep in modern times mirrors ancient practices, yet the original motivations, beliefs, and intended messages remain elusive. Even contemporary studies using aerial photography, LIDI scanning, and geophysical surveys have only deepened the mystery. Patterns emerge suggesting subtle adjustments to proportions and placement, hinting at a sophisticated understanding of perspective, visibility, and landscape design. Were these choices purely aesthetic, functional, or symbolic? Did the builders intend the horse to be seen only from certain angles, or as part of a ritual procession across the hills? Standing on the downs today, the figure retains a sense of both majesty and enigma. The wind carries across the hillside, and the chalk gleams under sunlight, its lines crisp against the green slopes. One can imagine the ancient communities who laboured here, the ceremonies and seasonal observances, the awe inspired in those who first glimpsed this figure from afar. The White Horse is at once a work of art, a monument, and a puzzle, a visible testament to human creativity, devotion, and the desire to mark the world with meaning. Why a horse rather than another creature or symbol? Why is this particular stylized form so different from later depictions of horses in art? And what broader cultural or spiritual significance did it hold for its creators, whose voices and stories are now lost? The Uffington White Horse endures as a silent sentinel across the Berkshire Downs, a hill figure carved in earth and memory, bridging the past and the present. Its form, abstract yet unmistakable, continues to provoke curiosity, inviting reflection on the societies that built it, the landscapes they inhabited, and the symbolic languages they left behind. And as the sun rises or sets along the rolling chalk hills, one cannot help but wonder what meanings remain hidden in the curves and angles of this ancient figure, waiting for the mind and imagination to rediscover them. From the sun-swept savannas and enigmatic stone circles of sub-Saharan Africa, where human intention is etched in patterns across the landscape, we now turn to the Mediterranean island of Malta, where history descends into shadow and silence. Beneath the modern town of Par lies a site unlike any other in Europe, the hypogee of Hal Safliani, an underground complex carved entirely from limestone, whose chambers, passageways and intricately painted walls evoke awe and mystery. Approaching the hypogee is an experience of anticipation and subtle unease. From above, there is little to hint at what lies below. A nondescript building marks the entrance, its modern walls guarding a world of ancient stone. Descend into the narrow passage and the air grows cool, still almost sacred. Light filters dimly, revealing smooth sculpted walls, recesses and columns carved directly from the bedrock. The space is compact, deliberately constructed, yet its design conveys both architectural mastery and spiritual intention. It is simultaneously intimate and expansive, a labyrinth of human purpose hidden beneath the earth. Radiocarbon dating places the Hypergeek's creation between 4000 and 2500 BCE, making it older than the pyramids of Egypt and contemporary with some of the earliest known European megalithic structures. The underground chambers consist of 3 levels, each carved with precision. Lower chambers descend like a spiral into the depths, culminating in spaces that seem to resonate with sound, designed in a way that amplifies even the softest murmur. Niches carved into walls, benches and altars suggest ritualistic use, while traces of pigments indicate that parts of the hypogee were once vividly decorated, though most of the colours have long faded. Mainstream interpretations classify the hypogee as a necropolis, a subterranean cemetery where tens of thousands of human remains have been discovered. The bones, carefully placed, hint at complex literary practices. Some skeletons appear intentionally positioned, while others seem rearranged over time, suggesting ongoing ritual management. The site's design, with its winding passages and chambers, may have served to guide the spirit or preserve memory, reflecting a sophisticated understanding of both the practical and metaphysical aspects of death. Yet, the hypogeum refuses to be fully explained. Its construction is precise, almost architectural, with spaces that seem designed to manipulate sound, light, and perception. Could the resonance of certain chambers have been intentional, perhaps to enhance chanting or ritual, or to induce a state of altered consciousness? Some researchers note that a whisper at one end of the oracle room, the lowest chamber, can be heard clearly across the space, a remarkable feat of acoustics for a culture without modern measurement tools. What knowledge informed this design? How were these effects discovered and perfected? Equally mysterious is the question of why the hypogee is subterranean. Unlike other contemporary megalithic sites, which are often elevated or prominently displayed, the hypogee is hidden beneath the earth, its secrets sealed from casual view. Was this a practical decision to protect the dead, a symbolic gesture to mirror the underworld, or a spiritual statement of the journey between life and death? The darkness and enclosure evoke a sense of otherworldliness, a liminal space between the known and the unknown. Speculative theories abound. Some suggest that the hypogee may have been a centre for rituals involving altered states using sound, light, and even natural hallucinogens to facilitate spiritual experiences. Others propose that it was a repository of esoteric knowledge, a place where priestly elites curated sacred texts or teachings, encoded in symbolism now lost. Could the elaborate carving, careful placement of niches, and acoustic design represent a prehistoric understanding of geometry, physics, and human perception that surpasses what we might expect for the era? The discovery of triple spiral motifs and other enigmatic symbols within the hypogee adds further intrigue. These designs have been interpreted as cosmological representations, cycles of life and death, or maps of the underworld, though their meaning remains speculative. Were these purely decorative, or did they encode deeper knowledge, astronomical, spiritual, or societal, that has been lost over millennia? And how did a community without written language communicate such complex concepts in enduring stone? The hypogee also raises questions about the society that built it. The sheer labour required to excavate limestone with stone tools, to carve chambers with such precision, and to maintain the site over centuries suggests a highly organised community with specialised skills. Yet the wider context, settlements, infrastructure or trade networks, remains only partially understood. Who commissioned the hypogee? Were the people buried there a privileged elite, a priestly class, or a broader segment of society? Standing within the dimly lit corridors, one feels an almost tangible connection to the past. The smooth walls, the faint traces of pigment, and the carefully sculpted chambers convey intent, purpose, and reverence. Time seems to slow, and the voices of the ancients echo faintly in stone and silence. Every corner, every niche, every spiral carved into the limestone invites contemplation, questioning, and humility before the achievements of a civilization so distant yet so remarkably sophisticated. What drove the creators of the Hypogeum? Was it fear of death, devotion to the ancestors, or a desire to reach beyond the physical world into realms of spirit and consciousness? Could their understanding of sound, space, and symbolism hint at knowledge far beyond what conventional timelines of prehistoric intelligence suggest? And most provocatively, how much of their knowledge and intent remains hidden, locked in darkness, waiting to be rediscovered? The Hypogeum of Hal Safliani endures as one of humanity's most profound subterranean mysteries, a silent testament to ingenuity, ritual, and the human fascination with the unseen. It invites reflection on mortality, memory, and the capacities of our distant ancestors, reminding us that even in the absence of written records, stone and space can speak across millennia, quietly posing questions that remain unanswered and continuing to challenge our understanding of the ancient world. From the shadowed chambers of Malta's Hypogeum of Hal Safliani, where human ingenuity met ritual and reverence beneath the earth, we return once more to the rolling landscapes of southern England. Here, amidst the chalk downs near Avebury, rises Silbury Hill, a monumental mound whose sheer scale and enigmatic purpose have puzzled archaeologists for centuries. Unlike the subterranean mysteries of Malta, Silbury confronts the sky, a massive earthwork visible for miles yet stubbornly resistant to explanation. From a distance, the hill appears deceptively simple, a smooth rounded mound. Its slopes gently ascend to a flat summit. But even at first glance, its magnitude is staggering. Standing at approximately 40 metres high and over 160 in diameter, Silbury Hill is the largest prehistoric man-made mound in Europe, composed entirely of chalk, clay, and soil. Its sheer size belies the labour required to construct it in the late Neolithic around 2400 to 2300 BC, a period contemporary with Stonehenge and the other monumental structures dotting the surrounding landscape. Excavations over the centuries have revealed a structure far more complex than a simple mound. Layers of chalk, packed earth, and timber frameworks suggest careful planning, periodic refurbishment, and precise engineering. Archaeologists have discovered radiating gullies, trenches, and evidence of deliberate shaping, techniques implying not only physical effort, but also an understanding of material stability and long-term preservation. Even today, the hill appears almost sculpted. Its rounded form is remarkably consistent despite millennia of erosion and weathering. Mainstream interpretations have long focused on ceremonial or symbolic explanations. Some propose that Silbury Hill served as a ritual site, a place for gatherings, processions, or seasonal ceremonies associated with fertility, sun worship, or ancestor veneration. Others suggest it may have been a territorial marker, asserting human presence and control over the surrounding land visible from miles around. Its proximity to the Avebury Stone Circle and other Neolithic monuments hints at a broader ceremonial landscape, a network of sacred spaces whose exact relationships remain tantalizingly elusive. Yet, despite extensive study, Silbury Hill resists definitive explanation. Unlike Barrows, it contains no known burials, no caches of valuable artifacts, and no inscriptions to indicate intent. Its monumental scale suggests significance far beyond the practical. Yet, what that significance was remains open to interpretation. Was it a place of ritual performance, a cosmic marker, or a symbolic embodiment of power and permanence? The absence of a clear function continues to challenge archaeologists and historians alike. speculative theories have arisen to fill the gaps left by evidence. Some researchers propose that Silbury Hill was designed as a symbolic representation of a sacred hill, perhaps a man-made mountain connecting the terrestrial and spiritual realms. Others suggest it may have functioned as a platform for astronomical observation, aligning with solstices, lunar cycles, or other celestial phenomena linking the movements of the heavens to human ritual. There is also the provocative notion that the hill may contain hidden chambers or features as yet undiscovered which could illuminate its purpose, though no conclusive evidence has emerged to support such claims. The construction process itself raises further intrigue. Moving and compacting thousands of tons of chalk and soil without wheeled vehicles or metal tools would have required enormous coordination, labour and knowledge. What social structures enabled such a massive undertaking? Were the builders motivated purely by spiritual belief, communal effort, or political ambition? The meticulous layering and ongoing maintenance suggest a long-term commitment to the site, implying that Silbury Hill was not a single-generation project, but a living monument shaped over decades, perhaps even centuries. Silbury Hill's location within the broader Neolithic landscape deepens the mystery. Nearby, the Abery complex, West Kennet Long Barrero, and other monuments form a network of sacred spaces. Yet Silbury stands apart, massive yet isolated, without a clear functional connection to the other sites. Was its scale intended to impress, intimidate, or inspire awe? Or does it encode knowledge or ritual practice now lost to time? Its relationships with surrounding monuments and natural features remain only partially understood, leaving room for contemplation, hypothesis, and wonder. Modern investigations employ a variety of technologies: ground-penetrating radar, core sampling, and 3D modelling. Yet, each discovery seems to deepen the enigma rather than resolve it. Core samples reveal layers of soil, chalk, and organic material, sometimes disturbed, sometimes carefully arranged. Yet no single layer provides a clear explanation. Each trench or deposit hints at human intention, careful planning, and purposeful labour. Yet the overarching meaning continues to elude us. Standing on the summit of Silbury Hill today, the observer experiences both the monumentality of its scale and the subtlety of its design. The horizon stretches in all directions, the surrounding downs punctuated by other Neolithic structures, fields and villages. There is a sense of continuity between human effort and landscape, a quiet dialogue across thousands of years. The hill embodies both permanence and mystery. Its origins and purpose are preserved in chalk, soil, and imagination. What did Silbury Hill represent to the people who built it? Was it a sacred mountain, a ceremonial platform, a cosmological marker, or something entirely beyond our understanding? Why invest such labour in a monument without known burials or practical function? Could it conceal secrets within its layers, waiting for future technology or insight to reveal them? Silbury Hill endures as a testament to human ingenuity, devotion, and the power of landscape as a medium for memory and meaning. Its silent presence invites reflection on the complexity of Neolithic societies, their worldview, and their capacity for monumental expression. And as the wind sweeps across the chalk downs, the mound poses the same question it has for millennia. What intentions, beliefs, and knowledge are hidden within its depths, still waiting to be discovered? From the rolling chalk downs of England, where Silbury Hill rises as a monumental testament to human labour and ritual, our exploration now carries us southward to the vast open plains of Senegambia, a region straddling modern-day Senegal and the Gambia. Here, scattered across the savannah and gently undulating terrain, lie hundreds of stone circles, enigmatic remnants of societies long vanished, their purpose and meaning still shrouded in mystery. At first glance, the stone circles seem deceptively simple. Rings of granite and laterite stones, many standing upright, some tipped or fallen, varying in size from a few metres to over 20 metres in diameter. In some locations, circles cluster in groups, forming vast networks across the landscape. In others, they appear solitary, punctuating the terrain with deliberate precision. Though the stones are modest compared to European megaliths, the scale and concentration of these circles imply careful planning, labour, and cultural intent. Archaeologists estimate that the stone circles were constructed between 300 BC and 1600 CE, a broad span that underscores both their longevity and the difficulty of establishing precise chronologies. Unlike other monumental landscapes, the Senegambian circles are accompanied by relatively few artifacts, making the reconstruction of the societies that built them challenging. Yet the patterns themselves, placement, size, and orientation, speak of shared cultural or ritual practices, a system of meaning encoded in stone that has survived centuries of weather, cultivation, and human activity. Mainstream interpretations suggest that the circles served ritual literary purposes. Excavations at some sites reveal burial pits, cremation deposits, or ceramic fragments within or adjacent to the circles, hinting at associations with death, ancestor veneration, or ceremonial commemoration. Some scholars propose that the circles functioned as markers for territory or social boundaries, demarcating sacred spaces or denoting the reach of particular clans or communities. Others argue that they may have served as observatories or cylindrical tools aligned with solar, lunar, or stellar events linking the cycles of the heavens with terrestrial activity. Yet the Senegambian circles resist easy categorization. Many contain no burials or artifacts at all, leaving their purpose open to interpretation. Why build such labour-intensive structures in locations that appear remote or devoid of habitation? Could the stones themselves have held symbolic meaning, acting as anchors for ritual memory, oral tradition, or spiritual practice? The uniformity in some regions and the variation in others hint at a complex social landscape, one in which local customs, shared belief systems, and environmental knowledge converge to produce enduring monuments. Speculative theories extend the intrigue further. Some researchers suggest that the circles were part of initiatory or ceremonial pathways guiding participants through ritual sequences or stages of social or spiritual transformation. Others propose that the stones may have served as a form of preterite communication, encoding stories, genealogies, or cosmological knowledge in ways visible across generations. Could these networks of stones represent a prehistoric map of cultural memory, a landscape shaped as much by meaning as by physical necessity? The construction methods themselves hint at significant social organisation. The stones, some weighing several tons, would have required coordinated effort to transport, raise, and place with precision. Labour, planning, and knowledge of local geology would have been essential, implying communities capable of sustained collective work. Yet, the enduring simplicity of the design, stones in circles, sometimes in rows or clusters, suggests that symbolic intention outweighed the desire for ostentation. The builders sought visibility and permanence rather than grandiose display. The placement of the circles within the landscape raises further questions. Many are positioned on slight rises along ridgelines or near water sources, creating relationships between stone horizon and human activity. Was this intended to mark sightlines to integrate spiritual or social practices with natural features, or to make the monuments visible across the savannah? The careful siting suggests a deliberate interaction between culture and environment, a dialogue encoded in stone. Walking among the circles today, one senses both presence and absence. The stones stand silent, witnesses to centuries of change, yet the stories of the people who placed them remain largely inaccessible. Each ring evokes contemplation of ritual, memory, and social structure. The gaps, overlaps, and alignments invite observation and reflection, challenging modern understanding while hinting at knowledge encoded in subtle, enduring form. What did the creators hope to convey? Were the circles primarily memorials, ritual instruments, or markers of social cohesion? Could the networks represent maps of sacred geography or cosmological understanding, visible only through the lens of cultural context now lost? And why were such monuments repeated so consistently across vast distances, yet subtly varied from site to site, suggesting both shared purpose and local adaptation? The stone circles of Senegambia endure as monuments to human ingenuity, spirituality, and the desire to leave a mark upon the landscape. They speak not in words, but in form, proportion, and placement, inviting contemplation and speculation. Each circle, each cluster, each solitary stone challenges us to consider what was important to the societies that built them, and what knowledge may have been encoded in patterns now partially obscured by time. As the sun rises over the savannah, casting long shadows across the weathered stones, one cannot help but feel the persistence of human presence across centuries. the circles remain silent yet resonant, prompting questions that echo through time. What meanings are hidden within these rings of stone, and how much of the human story embedded in them remains to be discovered? They are a landscape of memory, an enduring enigma that invites us to reflect on both the people who shaped it and the mysteries that continue to endure across generations. From the weathered stone circles of Senegambia, where human hands traced ritual, memory and territory across the savannah, our journey now ascends to the remote heights of the Tibetan Plateau, a harsh and windswept expanse where thin air and rugged mountains conceal both natural and human enigmas. Here among the cliffs and valleys of the Bayanhar Mountains lie the enigmatic dropper stones, small circular discs that have captivated explorers, researchers, and conspiracy theorists alike for decades. At first glance, the stones appear deceptively ordinary. Each is a flat round disc of slate or stone approximately 12 to 30 centimeters in diameter, with a small hole drilled through the center. Their surfaces are etched with fine, spiral-like grooves forming intricate patterns that spiral outward from the central perforation. The designs are unlike any known script from the region, appearing as both geometric and abstract, a language or symbolism whose meaning remains elusive. Carved carefully and deliberately, the discs demonstrate craftsmanship, yet their purpose, origin, and cultural context remain hotly debated. The discovery of the dropper stones is said to date back to 1938, when Chinese archaeologist Qipu Tut reportedly explored a cave near the village of Bayanhar and uncovered thousands of these discs stacked in stone boxes. Later expeditions allegedly confirmed the presence of hundreds more, often buried in layers of sediment. Radiocarbon dating of the surrounding cave deposits has been claimed by some sources to place the stones at over 12,000 years old, though verification remains elusive and controversial. The combination of remote location, unusual artifact form, and extraordinary dating has fueled both fascination and skepticism. Mainstream archaeology, when acknowledging the stones, often interprets them conservatively. They may represent ritual or ceremonial objects possibly used as markers, counters, or components of storytelling traditions. The spirals could be symbolic motifs encoding cosmological or spiritual ideas. Some scholars compare the carvings to other ancient petroglyphs, noting similarities with spiral motifs found worldwide from Neolithic Europe to the Americas, suggesting that abstract spiral symbolism has universal resonance. Yet, no definitive interpretation explains both the form and widespread discovery of these discs. The dropper stones become particularly intriguing when considering the alleged inscriptions. Some accounts claim the spirals form a coherent written language detailing the arrival of beings from the sky, so-called dropper people who supposedly descended from space in prehistoric times and settled temporarily in the mountains. These claims, often sensationalized, hint at extraterrestrial visitation. And while the veracity of such narratives is debated, the reports draw attention to the peculiar and otherworldly appearance of the discs, which do not resemble any known ancient Tibetan or Chinese scripts. Skeptics argue that the stories surrounding the stones are modern inventions fueled by sensational journalism and a lack of verifiable evidence. Yet, even if the extraterrestrial narratives are dismissed, the stones themselves remain an enigmatic phenomenon. Why were thousands of small, uniformly shaped discs created, each meticulously carved with spirals? Why deposit them in caves rather than in burial mounds or settlement sites? What purpose could such objects have served in a community? And what knowledge or belief system might have motivated their creation? Some researchers have speculated that the holes drilled in the centres of the stones indicate they were spun or mounted on rods, perhaps as instruments, ritual devices, or astronomical tools. Could the grooves have created sound or vibration when the discs were rotated? Is their resonance part of ceremonies or rites now lost to history? Others suggest that the stones were intended as storage devices of symbolic or numerical information, much like tally stones. Yet their abundance and deliberate arrangement hint at a significance beyond mere counting. Equally compelling is their placement in the remote high-altitude caves of the Tibetan Plateau. The harsh environment with extreme cold, thin air and rugged terrain suggests that the people who created the dropper stones were not only physically resilient but socially organized, capable of transporting and depositing large quantities of stone discs in inhospitable conditions. What motivated such extraordinary effort in a place so removed from fertile valleys or trade networks? Was it spiritual devotion, a practical function, or something else entirely? Walking among the caves where these discs were found, one imagines the meticulous care required to craft and store them, and the reverence or importance they must have held. Each spiral, each disc seems to whisper across millennia, hinting at knowledge, memory, or belief systems now inaccessible to us. The patterns invite contemplation yet defy decoding. They speak in silence, leaving interpretation as a delicate balance between evidence and imagination. The drop of stones remains in many ways a riddle of human creativity, endurance, and symbolism. Even if modern scholarship rejects the more fantastical claims, the discs, craftsmanship, sheer numbers, and unexplained purpose demand reflection. What messages might they carry hidden in spirals that predate written history? Were they intended as records, rituals, or relics? Or do they preserve knowledge of a culture entirely lost to time? In the dim light of the caves, surrounded by stone and shadow, one senses the persistence of human curiosity and the urge to leave a mark on the world, however mysterious or abstract. The Dropa stones endure as a silent testament to craftsmanship, ingenuity, and perhaps something beyond conventional understanding. They invite us to ponder not only the capabilities of ancient peoples, but also the limits of our own comprehension. What truths lie encoded in their spirals? What knowledge, story, or purpose was etched by hands long gone? And how much of this human or perhaps extraordinary experience remains hidden, waiting for patient observation, insight, or intuition to reveal it? The Dropa stones perched high upon the Tibetan plateau keep their secrets still, silently bridging the realms of history, legend, and enduring mystery. From the high-altitude caves of the Tibetan plateau, where the enigmatic dropstones silently trace spirals across millennia, our journey now descends to the rugged mountains and dense forests of New Zealand's South Island. Here, nestled in the limestone caverns and hidden valleys of Mount Owen, lies a mystery both tangible and tantalizing. The so-called Mount Owen Moa claw, a relic that hints at creatures long thought extinct and invites questions about survival, chronology, and human interaction with the ancient world. Mount Owen, a remote and largely inaccessible region within Kahurangi National Park, is a landscape of jagged peaks, mist-shrouded ridges, and intricate cave systems. The area is famed for its charted topography, limestone cliffs packed with fissures, tunnels, and caverns that have preserved secrets from both the natural and human past. It was in one such cave, deep in shadow and silence, that explorers reportedly discovered a large curved claw embedded in rock or soil layers that, according to initial reports, suggested extraordinary antiquity. Its size and form were unmistakable. Robust, curved, and unlike the claws of modern birds, it evoked the giant moa, the flightless bird that once roamed New Zealand before disappearing in the wake of human colonisation. The moa themselves are a well-documented part of New Zealand's prehistoric fauna. Standing up to 3.5 meters tall, these enormous birds were herbivorous giants, part of a unique ecosystem shaped by isolation and the absence of mammalian predators. Scientific consensus places their extinction between the 13th and 15th centuries, driven largely by hunting and habitat disruption by the first Polynesian settlers, the Maui. Yet, the Mount Owen claw presents a puzzle. Its reported context, deep cave deposits or layers not previously disturbed, raises the question: could this claw suggest the survival of moa far later than expected, or even into periods overlapping with modern discovery? Mainstream interpretations are cautious. Most researchers suggest that the claw, if authentic, could have been displaced by geological processes, or its reported context misinterpreted. Rock falls, sediment shifts, and human activity can easily reposition objects over centuries, obscuring their original temporal association. Yet, the mere possibility that a moa claw could persist in a remote cave, protected from decay and disturbance, sparks fascination and speculation. Could pockets of these giant birds have survived in inaccessible regions hidden from both humans and scientific scrutiny? Speculative theories, while controversial, abound. Some posit that micropools may have persisted in New Zealand's most remote and rugged landscapes, far from human contact. Others suggest that the claw might hint at unknown interactions between prehistoric humans and surviving moa populations, potentially extending knowledge of hunting practices domestication attempts, or ritual use beyond current understanding? Could it be possible that isolated creatures thought extinct for centuries endured in the shadows, leaving behind only tantalizing fragments like this claw? The cave itself adds layers of intrigue. Mount Owen's caverns are difficult to access with narrow passages, steep drops, and fragile rock formations. Their isolation would have provided a refuge for both animal and human activity, preserving remains in conditions that would be rare elsewhere. The claw's reported preservation suggests not only careful geological fortuity, but also raises questions about its depositional environment. Was it carried into the cave by natural processes, water, sediment, or rockfall? Or was it deliberately placed by human hands, perhaps as part of a ritual, offering, or record of hunting? Further complicating the story are reports of associated markings or artifacts, though these remain unverified and are often considered anecdotal. Some explorers claim to have observed stone tools or carvings near the claw, suggesting possible human interaction with moa in ways that challenge conventional timelines. Could these traces, if authentic, indicate knowledge of these birds by early human inhabitants of Mount Owen, extending the known history of moa-human encounters? Or are they coincidental natural formations later interpreted through the lens of expectation and imagination? Walking through the Mount Owen landscape today, one senses both the permanence and fragility of history. The mountain ridges rise sharply against the sky, the wind whispers through limestone fissures, and every shadowed cavern invites caution and contemplation. It's a place where human curiosity confronts the limits of evidence, where tangible relics like the moa claw hover between confirmation and legend, demanding both rigour and imagination. Walking through the Mount Owen landscape today, one senses both the permanence and fragility of history. The mountain ridges rise sharply against the sky. The wind whispers through limestone fissures, and every shadowed cavern invites caution and contemplation. It is a place where human curiosity confronts the limits of evidence, where tangible relics like the moa claw hover between confirmation and legend, demanding both rigour and imagination. What does the claw tell us about the world that once existed here? Could isolated moa populations have survived in the hidden valleys and caves of Mount Owen long after their presumed extinction? Or does the artefact merely reflect geological displacement, curiosity, or misinterpretation? Could it be that our understanding of extinction, survival, and the human impact on species is incomplete, shaped by the accidents of discovery rather than the totality of ecological history? The Mount Owen moa claw endures as a silent witness, bridging the worlds of the living and the lost. It evokes the majesty of creatures that once roamed forests and mountains, the ingenuity of humans who encountered them, and the mysteries that linger in the hidden corners of our planet. Its presence reminds us that even in the modern era, remote landscapes may guard secrets untouched by time, challenging assumptions and inviting reflection. As the shadows lengthen over the limestone cliffs, one cannot help but wonder what other fragments of lost worlds remain hidden in New Zealand's caves and valleys. What truths waiting patiently in stone, bone, or sediment might reshape our understanding of life, extinction, and human history. The Mount Owen moa claw, perched on the threshold between fact and enigma, leaves us with questions that remain unanswered and mysteries that continue to echo through time. In the remote, dense forests of the Ural Mountains, where the mist clings to the evergreens and the chill of Siberian winds whispers through the pines, there lies a secret older than any written record in the region. Buried beneath layers of peat for over 1,100 years, an enigmatic figure emerged in 1894 that would challenge our understanding of prehistoric art and human expression, the Shigear idol. Standing more than 5 meters tall, this wooden sculpture is the oldest known monumental wooden statue in the world, and yet, despite its age, it is astonishingly well preserved. The peat that encased it acted as a natural preservative, keeping its intricate carvings vivid and its form intact. But even so, its survival over more than a millennium is nothing short of remarkable. At first glance, the Shigear idol is both awe-inspiring and disquiring. Its elongated, almost otherworldly form stretches upward like a sentinel watching over the forest. Its surface is etched with geometric patterns, zigzags and deeply carved faces that peer out from its length in an arrangement that seems deliberate in a way that we instinctively recognize but cannot fully interpret. Each segment appears to carry meaning, yet the language it speaks is lost to us. Scholars have long debated the purpose of these carvings. Were they a form of early writing, a ritualistic object, a totemic representation, or a symbolic map of beliefs and cosmology? The answers remain tantalizingly out of reach. Radiocarbon dating has revealed that the idol is astonishingly ancient, placing it in the Mesolithic era, a time when humans were primarily hunter-gatherers, yet already demonstrating a capacity for sophisticated symbolic thought. The sheer scale of the statue suggests it was a labour-intensive project demanding tools, patience, and a shared vision among those who crafted it. But for what purpose? Who were the people who created such a monumental object? And why choose wood, a material so vulnerable to decay, for something meant to last? These questions echo across the millennia, unanswered and perhaps unanswerable. The iconography carved into the idol deepens the mystery. Anthropologists note that the faces with their wide circular eyes and prominent noses seem to emerge from the wood itself, as if the tree had been transformed into a living witness. Between these faces, abstract patterns twist and turn in a manner that defies simple interpretation. Some scholars propose that these geometric motifs represent numerological or cylindrical information, a sophisticated prehistoric system to record time or events. Others suggest the designs may represent spirits, ancestors, or even mythological beings, entities from a world beyond our own glimpsed through the eyes of a distant culture. Adding to the intrigue, the Shagir idol does not resemble any other contemporaneous artifacts from Europe or Asia, standing apart in both style and scale. This uniqueness has fueled speculation that it could reflect a form of prehistoric consciousness and culture that we scarcely understand. Some researchers argue that the idol may have been a spiritual or ceremonial guidepost, perhaps intended to mark sacred ground, act as a mediator between humans and the supernatural, or serve as a repository of collective memory. Could it have been a map of the universe as seen by its creators, or a spiritual mirror reflecting forces invisible to the naked eye? The truth remains elusive. There are whispers of more speculative theories as well. Fringe researchers have suggested that the idol's abstract patterns could encode astronomical knowledge or even represent an early attempt at symbolic communication with entities beyond our comprehension. Others have ventured even further, proposing that the idol's faces bear traces of a language older than any written record, a proscript that might predate known writing systems. These hypotheses, while tantalizing, remain unproven, yet they persist in part because the idol itself defies simple categorization, leaving room for the imagination to roam freely. Even the circumstances of its discovery add layers to the enigma. Found by a local miner in a peat bog, the Shagir idol was almost lost to science. Its journey from the bog to the museum involved careful excavation and preservation. And yet in some ways much of its story remains buried like the peat that once protected it. The idol stands now as a silent witness to an era we can only glimpse through archaeology, a fragment of a world whose voices we cannot hear but whose presence we can almost feel. Every glance at the Shagir idol invites a profound sense of contemplation. It is a relic that bridges time, connecting us to a past that predates cities, writing, and metallurgy. Its carvings suggest thought, intention, and perhaps even a yearning to communicate across the ages. And yet, for all the science that surrounds it, the radiocarbon dating, the material analysis, the careful cataloguing of patterns, there remains a profound mystery. The very act of creating such an object implies a culture rich in symbolism and belief, yet one that has left behind no written word to guide us. What thoughts, fears, or hopes compelled its creators to invest so much into this monumental wooden figure? As we step back and consider the Shagir idol in the dim light of history, we are confronted with an enduring enigma. It is a relic that invites both scholarly investigation and imaginative speculation, a silent monument to human creativity, curiosity, and perhaps even spirituality. Each carved line, each abstract motif, each haunting face hints at knowledge and experience lost to time, and while we may never fully understand its purpose, the Shagir idol continues to speak across the millennia, challenging us to consider the depths of human ingenuity and the mysteries that still lie hidden within the forests and bogs of ancient lands. What did the creators see when they carved those faces into the wood? What stories, beliefs, or secrets did they hope to preserve? And in the quiet, timeless forests of the Urals, does the idol still hold the essence of a world long vanished, waiting for us to uncover its secrets? Perhaps some mysteries are meant to remain, whispering just beyond our understanding, compelling us to wonder, to imagine, and to seek. In the sun-baked plains of southern Iraq, where the waters of the Tigris and Euphrates meander through ancient alluvial soils, archaeologists have uncovered fragments of a world long vanished. Amid the remnants of the Ubaid culture, which thrived from around 600 to 3800 BCE, one category of artifacts has consistently captured the imagination of researchers and enthusiasts alike: the Ubaid lizard figurines. These small enigmatic objects crafted from clay and stone portray lizards with meticulous attention to detail. Each figurine is no larger than a hand, yet each seems to possess an almost palpable presence, a quiet vitality frozen in time. The figurines themselves are fascinating in both form and function. Some are simple, their shapes suggestive of naturalistic study, while others are more abstract with elongated limbs, exaggerated features, or incised patterns across their backs. Often found in domestic settings, sometimes alongside hearths or storage areas, their purpose is not immediately clear. Were they toys, ritual objects, amulets for protection, or symbols of some complex spiritual or cosmological system? Scholars have debated their significance for decades, yet the mystery remains as compelling today as it was when they were first unearthed. The Ubaid period was a formative time in Mesopotamian history, a bridge between small scattered communities and the first true urban settlements. Within this context, the figurines suggest a symbolic sophistication that belies the simplicity of the objects themselves. Lizards, with their uncanny ability to survive and adapt, may have held particular significance. In many cultures, reptiles are associated with regeneration, transformation, and connection to the underworld or unseen realms. Could the Ubaid people have seen the lizard as a spiritual guide, a protector, or a messenger between worlds? The archaeological record offers hints, but no definitive answers. These figurines were typically moulded with remarkable care, sometimes featuring intricate scales or textured skin, as if their creators were deeply attuned to the natural world. They are often painted in ochre or other mineral-based pigments, traces of which still survive. This attention to detail raises further questions. Why invest so much effort in such small objects? What beliefs or practices motivated this artistry? The answers remain elusive, leaving room for speculation and wonder. Intriguingly, some of the lizard figurines exhibit features that are difficult to categorize. Certain examples have humanoid characteristics, elongated limbs or stylized faces, while others seem almost to blur the line between animal and human. Could these hybrid forms represent mythological beings, spirits, or deities? Or might they reflect early experimentation with symbolic abstraction, a precursor to the complex iconography that would later define Mesopotamian art? Each interpretation offers possibilities, yet none can be confirmed without further evidence. Some researchers have suggested that the figurines were connected to fertility, agriculture, or the cycles of life and death. Lizards shed their tails to escape predators, and their ability to regenerate might have been viewed as a metaphor for renewal and continuity. Others propose a protective function carried or placed within homes to guard against misfortune. The context in which these artifacts are discovered often provides tantalizing clues, but rarely definitive proof, allowing the mind to wander between the realms of the pragmatic and the mystical. The mystery deepens when considering their widespread distribution. Ubaid lizard figurines have been found across multiple sites in southern Iraq, suggesting that they were an important part of daily life and spiritual practice over a large geographic area. Yet, despite this prevalence, no written records exist from this early period to explain their exact meaning. The silent testimony of these objects continues to provoke debate, challenging archaeologists to reconstruct belief systems from fragmentary, airy evidence. Adding another layer of intrigue, some of the figurines bear markings that defy easy interpretation. Incised lines, geometric patterns, and punctuated impressions hint at symbolic or communicative intent. Could these marks represent early attempts at protoporting numerical notation or encoded spiritual concepts? While some scholars lean toward practical explanations, decoration, ownership marks, or craft signatures, The possibility that they convey a lost system of knowledge cannot be entirely dismissed. Even in the quiet of a museum display, the lizard figurines exude an air of subtle enigma. They are not monumental like the Shigir idol, nor do they proclaim their significance through sheer scale. Yet their very smallness makes them intimate, as if each piece invites contemplation, urging observers to imagine the hands that shaped it, the eyes that admired it, and the culture that imbued it with meaning. What stories were told around these objects? What rituals unfolded in their presence? How did they connect the people of the Ubaid culture to the wider world they inhabited? As we ponder the Ubaid lizard figurines, we are drawn into a dialogue with the past, a conversation that stretches across thousands of years. They are silent yet insist upon engagement, challenging us to consider the depth of symbolic thought, the complexities of early human society, and the mysteries that survive when everything else has vanished. Each figure is a whisper from an ancient time, hinting at knowledge, belief, and imagination that we may never fully grasp. What secrets did these small, detailed creatures hold for their makers? Were they talismans of protection, embodiment of myth, or symbols of understanding yet lost to history? And as we handle their replicas or gaze upon their preserved forms, might we sense a fragment of that ancient consciousness, a fleeting connection to a culture that vanished into the sands of Mesopotamia, leaving only these enigmatic echoes behind? In the quiet of the archaeological record, the mystery persists, inviting us to look closer, to question deeper, and to wonder what else remains hidden beneath the layers of time. High in the rugged Altiplano of Bolivia, near the shores of the salt flats and ancient settlements of Tiwanaku, an object surfaced that would ignite decades of curiosity and debate. Known as the Fuente Magna Bowl, this seemingly unremarkable clay vessel has become a focal point for scholars and enthusiasts intrigued by the possibility of transoceanic contact long before Columbus. Discovered in the 1950s near the town of Lake Titicaca, the bowl is small, its dimensions easily held in the palm of a hand. Yet, it is the enigmatic inscriptions etched across its surface that elevate it from ordinary artifact to an enduring archaeological puzzle. The bowl is fashioned from clay with careful, deliberate craftsmanship, typical of the ancient cultures that thrived in the Tiwanaku region. But the true mystery lies in the writing. The carvings bear an uncanny resemblance to Sumerian cuneiform, a script used thousands of miles away in Mesopotamia over a millennium before the established rise of Andean civilizations. Alongside these cuneiformic symbols are markings reminiscent of Proto-Sumerian pictographs. The convergence of these scripts on a single vessel, in a land so distant from the cradle of civilization in Mesopotamia, poses profound questions about ancient human interaction and the movement of knowledge across continents. Scholars who have examined the Fuente Magna Bowl note that the inscriptions appear deliberate and coherent. Some have attempted to decipher the characters, finding them consistent with known Sumerian language structures. If accurate, this could suggest contact between two civilizations, separated by vast distances and seemingly insurmountable obstacles. How could such contact have occurred? And for what purpose? Was the bowl a token of trade, a vessel of ceremonial significance, or a relic brought by travellers who crossed oceans far earlier than recorded history suggests? The context of its discovery adds layers to its enigmatic nature. Found near the ruins of ancient settlements, yet without a clear archaeological layer tying it to a specific period, the bowl's origins remain difficult to place with certainty. Its clay composition and stylistic features align with Indian pottery. Yet the inscriptions do not match anything native to the region. Some archaeologists propose that it could have been a later introduction, perhaps brought by itinerant traders or explorers. Others speculate more daringly that it represents evidence of knowledge exchange between civilizations long considered isolated from one another. Adding to the intrigue, the Fuente Magna Bowl is not unique in its presence of foreign scripts. A handful of other artifacts discovered in Bolivia and surrounding areas bear similar inscriptions hinting at a possible pattern rather than a singular anomaly. Could this indicate an early network of transoceanic contact? Or might there be a more local explanation that we have yet to uncover? The truth remains elusive, and the object's silence only deepens the mystery. The physical attributes of the bowl also invite speculation. Its small size, smooth curves, and careful engravings suggest it was intended for ceremonial or symbolic use rather than practical everyday function. Was it a vessel for offerings, a tool for divination, or a repository of sacred knowledge? The possibility that the inscriptions were meant to be read, interpreted, or recited lends an almost mystical aura to the artifact. Perhaps the creators sought to encode a message, one that has eluded translation for decades, leaving us to ponder the intentions behind the carvings. Among the more speculative theories, some researchers have proposed that the bowl is evidence of ancient explorers bridging continents before the development of seafaring technology in recorded history. Others suggest that the Sumerian-like script may reflect convergent evolution in writing systems, a remarkable instance of human societies independently developing similar methods to record language. Both explanations challenge conventional timelines and assumptions, inviting both wonder and skepticism. Yet, for all the debate, the Fuente Magna bowl retains a tangible presence that continues to fascinate. Its inscriptions seem to pulse with silent stories from the distant past, daring us to imagine connections between peoples, ideas, and journeys that might never have been documented. The bowl itself becomes a lens through which we glimpse a world where civilizations were perhaps not as isolated as we have long believed, where knowledge and culture could travel vast distances across unforgiving landscapes and treacherous waters. Every careful examination of the bowl encourages us to consider the complexities of early human ingenuity. How many other artifacts lie buried in the Andean highlands awaiting discovery, each with a story that could reshape our understanding of history? Could the Fuente Magna bowl represent a fleeting trace of global connections that predate the empires we traditionally study? Or is it a singular anomaly, a mystery deliberately left for future generations to ponder? As we study the Fuente Magna bowl, we are reminded that the past often speaks in riddles. Its inscriptions, etched with precision and care, suggest intention, intelligence, and perhaps even reverence. And yet, for all our efforts to decipher them, the vessel keeps its secrets. A whisper from a time when the world was both larger and smaller than we imagine. It stands as a testament to human curiosity and the enduring enigma of civilizations separated by geography, but potentially linked by imagination, exploration, and the unquenchable desire to communicate. What truths did the bowl's creators hope to convey? Was it a message meant to survive across continents, a ceremonial object of profound importance, or a symbol of human ingenuity in a time we scarcely understand? And in the quiet, wind-swept highlands of Bolivia, does the bowl still resonate with echoes of those distant voices, challenging us to listen, interpret, and wonder what other mysteries remain hidden, just beyond the reach of our understanding? Nestled in the rugged valleys of northern Italy, amid the soaring peaks and quiet streams of the Lombardy region, lies one of the most extensive and enigmatic collections of prehistoric rock art in the world. The Viconica petroglyphs carved into the granite cliffs and boulders that line the valley. These images stretch for miles, whispering stories from a time before written history. Over 140,000 symbols and figures cover the rocks. Their forms range from simple geometric shapes to intricate depictions of humans, animals, and mysterious anthropomorphic beings. The sheer scale and density of this prehistoric gallery make it a remarkable testament to the creativity and ritual life of early European communities. The petroglyphs of Valcamonica are believed to have been created over thousands of years, beginning in the Neolithic period and continuing into the Iron Age. This makes the site not only a record of artistic expression, but also a chronicle of cultural evolution, capturing shifts in society, technology, and belief systems. Scholars have observed how the motifs change over time from early abstract patterns to more figurative depictions of warriors, hunters, and scenes of daily life. Yet, despite extensive study, the meaning behind many of these images remains elusive. Walking along the valley, one is struck by the variety of carvings. Some depict human figures with elaborate headdresses or wielding weapons, frozen in dynamic poses as if engaged in dance, ritual, or combat. Others show animals both familiar and fantastical. Deer, serpents, and horned beasts intertwined with symbols that defy straightforward interpretation. Geometric shapes, spirals, circles, and zigzags repeat across different sites, suggesting a symbolic language or a shared cultural motif that modern researchers have yet to fully decode. Could these markings be a form of prehistoric communication, a symbolic codex of beliefs, or an early calendar system? The answer is not yet clear. The methods used to create the petroglyphs also reveal something about the societies that made them. Chiseling into hard granite required skill, patience, and tools capable of withstanding the test of time. The labour invested in these carvings indicates that they were not mere decorations. They held significance, perhaps spiritual or communal. Some researchers propose that the carvings functioned as sacred markers, guiding ritual practices or denoting areas of power. Others suggest they may have served as educational or mnemonic tools, encoding knowledge about hunting, astronomy, or social hierarchies. The context of their placement adds another layer of intrigue. Many carvings appear in clusters along riverbeds or near natural rock formations, often situated in locations that align with solstices or other celestial events. This has led some scholars to propose that Valonica was not only an artistic hub, but also a site of ritual and astronomical observation. Could these ancient people have been observing the heavens and encoding their understanding in stone? If so, the petroglyphs become more than art. They are a bridge between human consciousness and the cosmos, a silent testament to early attempts to grasp the mysteries of time and nature. Among the more enigmatic images are the so-called communion figures, anthropomorphic shapes that defy easy classification. Some appear to possess multiple limbs, others with exaggerated features or unnatural proportions. These figures may represent deities, spirits, or mythological beings, but without a written record, their identity remains speculative. Do they reflect early religious beliefs, shamanic visions, or symbolic storytelling passed down orally through generations? Each possibility opens a window into a world view that we can only glimpse through the stones they left behind. Adding to the mystery, some carvings exhibit a level of consistency across centuries and across different valley locations that suggests a highly organised cultural transmission. How did these symbols persist, evolve, and spread over thousands of years? Was there a formalised system of apprenticeship, ritual instruction, or oral tradition that preserved this visual language? Or could the similarities be the product of convergent symbolic thinking, where distinct communities independently arrived at comparable expressions? Speculative theories have also emerged. A few researchers suggest that the petroglyphs may encode extraterrestrial contact or advanced ancient knowledge. While these ideas remain fringe and controversial, they reflect the enduring fascination and sense of wonder that Valcamonica inspires. The site's mystery does not lie in any single explanation, but in its capacity to provoke questions that challenge our assumptions about prehistoric human ingenuity. Today, as sunlight shifts across the granite faces of the valley, the carvings seem to animate, telling stories that are simultaneously familiar and incomprehensible. They invite reflection on the human desire to communicate, commemorate, and connect across time. Each line etched into stone is a voice from the past, a fragment of a culture striving to leave a lasting imprint to be understood and to endure. Standing in the quiet of the valley, one cannot help but wonder about the lives of those who created these images. What rituals, beliefs, and daily experiences motivated their hands? What knowledge did they intend to preserve? And how much of it has been lost to the passage of millennia? In the shadows of the Valcamonica cliffs, these petroglyphs remain silent yet profoundly expressive, a testament to human curiosity and creativity, and a reminder that the past still holds secrets waiting for those who are willing to look closely, think deeply, and ask the questions that remain unanswered. High on the Altiplano near Lake Titicaca, amidst the sweeping plains and distant Andean peaks, lie the remnants of one of the most perplexing archaeological sites in the world, Puma Punku, part of the Greater Tiwanaku complex in Bolivia. This site is distinguished not only by its historical significance, but also by the precision and scale of its stone constructions. As one approaches the site, the massive sandstone and andesite blocks scattered across the terrain immediately command attention. Some weigh over 100 tons, their surfaces finely cut and smoothed with interlocking shapes and grooves that fit together with uncanny precision. These are not random stones. They are the fragments of a lost architectural mastery that continues to defy easy explanation. The Puma Punku blocks are remarkable in both size and craftsmanship. Many exhibit precise right angles, drilled holes, and perfectly straight edges achieved without the benefit of modern tools. Some stones feature intricate H-shaped connectors, suggesting a sophisticated understanding of structural engineering that seems far ahead of what was believed possible for the Tiwanaku civilization around 500 to 600 CE. Even today, geologists and engineers struggle to comprehend how such immense stones were quarried, transported and assembled with such accuracy, raising questions about the techniques and knowledge possessed by the builders. One of the most intriguing aspects of Puma Punku is the uniformity of the cuts and the apparent modular design of the blocks. The stones seem designed to fit together like pieces of a complex three-dimensional puzzle, hinting at a construction methodology that is methodical and highly advanced. Archaeologists suggest that the Tiwanaku people used stone hammers and chisels to achieve these results. Yet the level of precision, particularly the near-perfect straightness of cuts and the seamless fit of the blocks, remains difficult to fully explain. How did a society without metal tools achieve such architectural feats? Further mystery arises from the alignment and orientation of the site. Some researchers have noted astronomical alignments and possible cylindrical purposes embedded in the layout of the stones. Others have proposed ceremonial or religious functions pointing to the connection between the site and Tiwanaku's larger urban and ritualistic centres. Could the arrangement of blocks reflect symbolic cosmology, sacred geometry, or a sophisticated understanding of the heavens? Or might there be practical purposes behind the engineering that we have yet to comprehend? Adding to the intrigue are the finely detailed carvings and geometric shapes etched into some of the blocks. These include precise grooves, depressions, and channels that may have served as joining mechanisms or as conduits for ritual or hydraulic functions. The craftsmanship suggests not only technical skill, but also deep planning and foresight. Each stone appears carefully measured and tailored, implying that the builders possessed advanced surveying knowledge and a concept of modular design remarkably modern in its sensibilities. Speculative theories surrounding Puma Punku have flourished in response to these enigmas. Some suggest that the site demonstrates lost technological knowledge or even hints at contact with advanced civilizations, challenging conventional timelines of human development in the region. Others propose that the precise cuts and massive transportation feats indicate methods or tools now unknown to us, perhaps leveraging techniques that have not survived in the archaeological record. While mainstream archaeology attributes the construction to highly skilled Tiwanaku masons, the questions linger. What inspired such meticulous work, and how did they accomplish it with the resources available at the time? The scale of the project also invites contemplation. Moving and shaping multi-tone stones requires not only ingenuity, but also social organisation, labour management and engineering knowledge. This implies that the Tiwanaku civilization was more complex and capable than traditionally assumed, with a social and technological structure sophisticated enough to undertake monumental construction projects. Yet despite this remarkable evidence of capability, much about the site's function, planning and ultimate purpose remains speculative. Puma Punku's scattered blocks now lying in fragmented arrays suggest that the original structure suffered significant destruction, perhaps due to natural disasters, earthquakes or human activity. Even in ruins, the precision of the remaining stones speaks to an original architectural harmony that challenges our understanding of ancient engineering. The question of how such perfection was achieved and why it was ultimately abandoned remains an enduring puzzle, drawing archaeologists, engineers and enthusiasts alike to the site in search of answers. As one stands amidst the colossal stones, the sense of wonder is palpable. The air of mystery combined with the evidence of extraordinary skill invites reflection on the capabilities of ancient peoples and the knowledge they may have possessed. Each block precisely shaped and meticulously arranged whispers of a lost architectural language, one that communicates both ingenuity and ambition, yet leaves its full meaning tantalizingly out of reach. What drove the builders of Puma Punku to create such monumental precise constructions? Were these blocks part of a grand ceremonial complex, an expression of social cohesion, or an attempt to encode knowledge in stone? And as we gaze upon the remnants of this remarkable site, do we glimpse only a fraction of a civilization's accomplishments, the rest obscured by time, decay, and the limits of our understanding? Puma Punku endures as a silent testament to human creativity and curiosity, a riddle carved in stone that continues to inspire awe, investigation, and wonder across the centuries. Amid the rugged landscapes of Mpumalanga in South Africa, where rolling hills meet the expansive sun-bleached plains, there lies a curious imprint, a giant footprint etched into the sandstone with a permanence that has puzzled observers for decades. The mark, vast and unmistakable, stretches several feet in length, far exceeding the dimensions of any human foot recorded in history. Its edges are worn smooth as though time itself has attempted to erode its story, and yet it remains an enduring testament to something or someone whose presence defies easy explanation. The footprint lies in a region already steeped in mystery. This area, scattered with ancient rock formations and fossilised remnants of a long-gone epoch, has been a magnet for archaeologists and adventurers alike. Scholars have carefully mapped the site, noting the alignment of the print in relation to nearby geological features, and the sedimentary layers beneath it hint at an age far older than any local human habitation. The context alone is enough to stir curiosity. A footstep preserved for what could be millions of years, frozen in stone, challenging our understanding of history and human evolution. Mainstream interpretations suggest natural phenomena might account for the print. Erosion, differential weathering, and the peculiar flow of ancient sediment can occasionally produce shapes that mimic organic forms. Geological processes are powerful and often capricious, capable of creating the illusion of design where none was intended. Some scientists argue that this giant footprint is simply a product of these forces, a coincidental convergence of lines and depressions in the rock that resembles a foot. And yet, when observed closely, the proportions are strikingly precise. A heel, a pronounced arch, 5 discernible toes, and a depth that implies weight and pressure. How could such a formation arise purely by chance? And why does it so closely echo the structure of a human foot? Excavations around the site have yielded further puzzles. Fossils of prehistoric creatures have been uncovered nearby, evidence of a thriving ecosystem that existed long before humans appeared in the region. Tools and implements from early hominins have been discovered across South Africa. Yet none align temporally or spatially with the footprint. It is as if this mark belongs to a separate narrative, one that intersects only fleetingly with the known archaeological record. What kind of being could have made a footprint so large? And where did it come from? Could it be that this is an echo of a creature lost to memory, a species entirely absent from textbooks and museums? Local folklore adds another layer to the mystery. Oral traditions speak of towering giants who once walked the lands, beings of extraordinary strength and size who left their mark upon the earth. While such tales are often dismissed by scholars as myth, the consistency of these stories across generations is intriguing. Could these legends preserve fragments of historical truth masked by metaphor and allegory? The footprint, silent and immovable, seems almost to challenge these tales, standing as a tangible relic of a narrative that straddles the line between history and imagination. Photographs of the footprint circulate widely among enthusiasts and researchers, each image prompting new questions rather than answers. Shadows cast by the low afternoon sun accentuate the depth of the depression, while rainfall occasionally pools in the hollow, tracing the contours in shimmering water. Visitors describe a sense of awe upon standing near it, an uncanny feeling that the land itself remembers an event long past, that some ancient presence still lingers in the air. Even the most skeptical observers cannot deny the compelling visual impact. A giant stride frozen in time, a relic that challenges expectations and invites speculation. Fringe theories have also found their way into the discourse. Some suggest the footprint could be evidence of a previously unknown race of hominins, larger and stronger than modern humans. Others propose extraterrestrial influence, a notion that places the mark within a cosmic context rather than a terrestrial one. Though these ideas remain highly speculative, they reflect the depth of fascination the footprint inspires. They remind us that our understanding of the past is far from complete, and that sometimes the evidence resists neat categorization, encouraging us to consider possibilities that lie at the edges of conventional thought. Researchers continue to study the site with the tools of modern science. 3D scanning, sediment analysis, and stratigraphic dating all aim to place the footprint within a chronological framework. Yet definitive answers remain elusive. Each investigation uncovers more detail, but also more questions. The footprint refuses to yield its secrets easily, as if the rock itself is guarding a story that human inquiry has only begun to touch. Standing beside it, one is struck by the enormity of the unknown. It is a reminder that history is not merely the sum of recorded events, but also the accumulation of traces, impressions, and enigmas left by beings long gone. The giant footprint of South Africa does not speak in words, yet it communicates across millennia, offering a silent invitation to wonder. What walked this land before us? What stories lie buried beneath the soil, waiting for discovery? And how much of the past remains hidden, forever etched in stone, yet beyond the reach of certainty? As the wind whispers across the plains and the sun dips behind distant hills, the footprint seems to shimmer with the weight of time. It is a mark both ordinary and extraordinary, a detail that should perhaps have been overlooked yet cannot be ignored. In this quiet, mysterious place, the line between science and speculation blurs, leaving only the profound and persistent question: who or what left this imprint? And what does it tell us about the history of